Hello and welcome to the From the Spirit World podcast, a legendary Avatar, The Last Airbender, and the Legend of Korra podcast for overlyanimated.com. This is the FTSW Rewatch, the definitive Avatar fans rewatch from the biggest Avatar fans you know. We'll be reflecting on Avatar and Korra 20 years later after being huge fans of both shows while they originally aired. I am your host, Dylan, and today I'm joined by Mel.
Hello.
Jeff.
Hello.
Ben.
Hello.
And Delaney.
Hey, y'all.
It is the finale of the Avatar Rewatch series. We have finally made it, and you're going to want to hear this one, the big conclusion, where we have big topics to get to, such as revisiting the maligned Rock in the Back Avatar state moments, revisiting
Rock in
Azula and the Katang Kiss, and the Agni Kai. And did you guys know that about 18 years ago, the night of the finale, I was joined on our finale recap right after it aired on July 19th, the night of July 19th, 2008, except it was the 20th because we recorded in the middle of the night for some reason. I was joined by Jeff, Mel, Ben, and Sam, because Delaney was not born yet.
Oh.
But we have
Oh my god.
we have reassembled almost the exact crew from
that. That's
18.
So annoying.
I was planning that, yeah, just for you. Born on the podcast, but figured it out. But isn't that fun that we've coincidentally reassembled almost the exact same crew, and I re-listened to that podcast in full, and we will talk about it later on. And we will be revealing the Dongbu Feng Contact, what everyone has been waiting for. So
wait, you haven't revealed that yet? No, you've told. Okay, wait. But you've told people on this podcast, right?
No. We'll get to it. I think someone else said they figured it out. I think it was Jeff.
Yes.
But okay.
But
I've told no one.
I may have told Allie.
I was feeling guilty because Allie's not on this podcast, so she wouldn't be able to hear the reveal.
Yeah,
so
she knows who it. Yeah, she knows who it is.
Okay. Well, I guess Allie knows now. But
if anyone wants to do some last minute,
also by the way,
if somebody wants to do a last minute hint check, you can peruse my 900 Facebook friends, and you might find a name in there.
Okay. Well, I will be dropping more hints during the podcast. We will get to it. Someone will don't say that, Mel. Someone will do that. But also, to be clear, Mel was also not officially told, so we will confirm everything here. In theory, almost no one knows this, but anyway, that's to come towards the end at some point. I don't know what exactly we'll do last, but this is the big reveal for all. But first, we are okay. And the episodes we're discussing is the series finale of Avatar. Sozin Comet's parts 1 to 4, Phoenix King, The Old Masters, Into the Inferno, and Avatar Aang. And I'm very excited to revisit this. Let's start off with just impressions from rewatching these episodes 18 years later as adults. What's changed? What do you still think? What do you still love about it? Mel, what did you think rewatching the finale?
I feel like this is something that I felt a little bit the first time where it just, I mean, I guess anything is sort of anticlimactic when you get to the end of something because you build it up in your head so much, and this, was many years in the making. But I felt again this time that it was just sort of like, yes, it's very good and I enjoy it, but I didn't find it super emotionally satisfying in all the spots that I would want to.
As an adult or looking back?
As an adult, I mean, knowing everything that I know, I would say now it's like, there are things that are sort of, like it's like, oh, I wish this could have been handled better, or this part would have played out differently, and that sort of thing. Not that not to say I disliked it. It was just like, oh yeah, I don't know that was the most satisfying of finales for me.
Okay, interesting. We will dive into any high level reasons you want to highlight at the start here.
I feel like the energy bending stuff continues to be a sort of pull it out at the end thing. And I think I felt that at the time, but I don't know you listened to the podcast. I have no idea what I said. So maybe I was like, who knows what I thought back then. You do. But I felt that sort of appeared in a convenient way. And to be honest with you, and I think I felt this at the time as well, but I didn't know how to articulate it. I don't know that they handled the and this is the entirety of the season. I don't know that they handled the Katang of it all very well.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about that, so we will revisit. Will revisit and conclude this discussion. So that's good stuff there. Yeah, I think we're always iffy on the energy bending, so that's gonna be a fun one to revisit. By the way, I didn't give my normal intro things to this, but I don't think most of them apply anymore. Anyway, let us say hi in the comments, and you can email us whatever. And we're on YouTube, youtube.com/overlyanimated. Okay. And spoilers, obviously, for Avatar and Korra. Let's continue on the impressions revisiting the finale. Jeff, what did you think watching the finale this time around?
I always like watching the finale. I think there's just a really good choreography to how they split everyone up, amount of time they spent in the lead up versus the action part. It's hard for me to it's at this point, it's a bit hard for me to say, what if it played out this way or that way? It's like, that is, settled history, I guess. But I remember at the time, I think I gathered the whole family together because we were all avatards and put the TV in a corner and watched it with popcorn. It was really good event then, and then being able to celebrate it with everyone here afterwards. I remember having a lot of fun with that.
Nice. Apparently you watched it a few times and outlines it for us on the podcast, Jeff.
Did I? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think you were in an earlier time zone, and I think had a benefit, and you used that time well. But yeah, that's that. Well, yeah, that'll be fun to revisit. But it's nice from Jeff. Ben, how about you? What was it like rewatching the finale?
I think that like Jeff, I always enjoy watching the finale, to kind of see how how the story is concluded. But I also agree about the on the energy bending side, especially, that it wasn't well explained. Obviously, they dug into it a lot more across Korra, and I think it's touched on in the comics, but I haven't read all of them, so I think that maybe stuck out to me a bit more this time. But overall, I still love the finale, and just like how like Jeff said, very clever how they split the group up and how they all had these separate missions, and seeing those to resolution. So yeah. I still like it, but I do see more of the flaws now. So
interesting. Yeah, I remembered us being critical of the finale. I remember that's like a key kind of from the spirit world opinion. But we were very excited, at least on the night of. We were very happy with it. So maybe some of those flaws came over time. Delaney, I feel like you have an interesting perspective here, not having the same baggage as us at the time. So what was your original opinion on the finale? What do you think of it rewatching it?
Yeah, so I didn't, when I was watching it originally, I wasn't on the podcast. I was just very much just, you just watch it and you're like, what? So I loved it originally. It was, it's definitely one of those, I think, big moments in my childhood. Is I remember being in I've told this story before, but my bed was up against the wall, and at the foot of my bed was my TV stand and my TV. And so I was leaning over the footboard with my hand on the power button, prepared to turn the TV off if Zatara happened. And because I was like, if Zatara happens, I'm turning this off. It was the worst thing that could have happened to me. So I'm 11 or 12 during the finale. And so I am I'm going to turn this TV off as Zatara happens. And I also like my parents must have been like, cool, whatever, watch it in your room, have fun. I had TV in my room like off and on growing up, so it's just funny that like my parents were like, go away for 2 hours, have fun. Like I was like, I'm gonna turn this off because the big scary moment is when like Katara's like comforting Zuko. Like I'm like, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm going to turn it off. Like I remember just being stressed. And of course,
Delaney, what about as a Zuko fangirl? Did you find the growing up? Did you find?
So that's the thing. The Zuko fangirling like had lessened. So like so I was a Zuko first season. I love Zuko. Like I love everything about him. I had a crush on season 1 Zuko. By the time we get to book 3, because I hate Zutara so much. I have turned against.
Ruined it for you. Okay,
Zutara ruined it for me. So like there was no. I didn't want Zuko to die.
At what point did that happen though? Like what was there a specific moment or?
So I don't know so probably what it was is I got like. I remember watching all of book 2 like on Nick.com like leading up to like basically I got caught up to a lot of stuff like somewhere in the middle before the finale. Like I remember there was like a big lead up to the finale. So like I remember like granted I don't know the timeline. I do remember I had to get caught up on book 2 and I had to watch all the episodes on Nick.com. And then that's when I was on the forums, and that's when I found out Zutara existed, and I was like, "This is the worst thing that I have ever heard in my life."
So it's when you started interacting with the fandom. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, "Terrible! This is horrible!" Like, oh my god!
Okay.
Like,
so that's good. Anyway,
was ready to like burn the world down.
What about now? Look, we're watching it yesterday.
So now it's fun. So I watched it yesterday. So Tanya also watched Avatar growing up, but she hasn't seen all of it necessarily consecutively. And, she wasn't like as into it as we all are. But she was like, I want to watch it with you. Because, that was, sometimes, that kind of determined if I watched it last night or like this morning. So we sat down to watch it. I'm really proud of her. We made it through like 3 episodes before she had to pee. It was like honestly a record for her. We had, so that was really fun.
Long.
Right? Like, and so it was, made it like an hour, so like that was pretty good. So that was really fun to do. Like it's kind of like to watch it with her because she hasn't seen it, and then, so it's kind of like new again, So that was really fun. And I don't really have the baggage like of like The Rock or like The Lion Turtle. Now I think about it as I watch it because that's something now that I think about. For me, what really just hit me watching it, I mean, I had a great time. It's so cinematic, and Tanya made funny comments, and for me, it was really like the music during the Agni Kai is incredible. That's so good, and also what really struck me while I was watching it this time was that shows don't get this anymore. Like this is like it's hard to think of like, there's shows I love. The closest one I would say would be She-Ra or Voltron. Would be like, shows don't get this epic 4-part finale. Like this was an event and it was awesome. And it really like, whether you're regardless of your feelings like on the finale, this was a finale. Like this was like all out stuff happened. It concluded the series. It was awesome. And we don't get this anymore. Like the TV landscape's completely changed, and you're lucky to get an ending at this point. And so that was really what got me. It was just how like you don't get this anymore. Yeah. Like I mean, it really, really feels like an ending, and it was like a whole event. And I loved it. I had a great time.
Nice. No, yeah. I mean, it's true. Many shows don't even get series finales, much less multi-part ones. And Avatar had additional production resources. Mike and Brian went to Korea to help with animating it. They had an orchestra for the music for the finale. Like it was definitely like a bygone time with the amount of resources allocated here.
I did want to say is that this was nice and vindicating for me. Was after we watched it, Tanya and I made a comment about, the music was so good. Tanya did say, because I dragged her to the Avatar concert, she was like, you know what? You're right. I understand now why they did the orchestra for the show. And I was like, thank you, babe. Like, so I was vindicated.
Good. I'm happy for that. Okay. That's good. Good stuff. No, yeah, I mean, we're going to get into a lot of we'll spend more time kind of on our questionable parts just because it's more fun to talk about. But I mean, the finale was still great. I think boringly, I mostly still feel the same about the finale. I think I've had a lot of different takes recently for book three, especially the second half of book three. Southern Raiders, my biggest episode riser of the show. Didn't like it at the time.
I wonder why you hated it at the time.
Couldn't get past the Zutara at the
You
time.
could say.
Now I understand it's a great episode. That was definitely the biggest one.
Oh, Tanya was also making comments the whole time because she was a Zutarian, and I was like, I'm gonna hit you with a rock.
But you mentioned one metaphorical rock, hopefully. One thing from the finale I did not remember was the intricately drawn Zuko and Katara faces as they look at each other after the healing. The super anime I did not appreciate that even now.
Hello, living in fear. I'm gonna turn the TV off.
Because I was originally I'm like, okay, but Zutara was never like really good. But there is that one moment, like it was they really tried to sell it. And by the way, I think
Tanya's like, what if they kissed? And I was like, shut up, Tanya. Like,
what if this time when you watched it they kissed?
Right? Like she was trolling me the whole time. It was horrible.
I think we weren't as in suspense because like re-listening to the last few podcasts that week that it aired, we weren't like in doubt about Katang. I think a big thing is that the finale contents leaked in the novelization form a few months before, so I do think we knew definitively that Katang happened.
That's so classic Avatar nonsense.
So I think it was a different situation than the Korra finale, but I wonder if there were no spoilers, if it would have been like a little bit more of a Korra finale. Not the same situation with Korrasami genuinely like unexpected and was very much in doubt, but I'm happy that for younger me that we were a little secured there. The thing about the finale I appreciate more this time, kind of boring, but is the setup. I think parts 1 and 2. Plus, I commented on this last podcast, but I appreciate the end of Southern Raiders sets up this choice for Aang, and I appreciate that the Ember Island players with their like fake bad ending that kind of sets up the stakes of the finale. So in my head, looking back on the finale, I'm like everything came out of nowhere, and like certainly stuff does come out of nowhere, like energy bending. It's like, oh yeah, and to get ahead of it, no, like putting Easter eggs, lion turtles in 2 episodes doesn't count as setup. But no. the themes and a lot of the themes and stuff, I do think they set up well, and I like parts 1 of the finale as like big setup episodes. I think I still like part 3 more than part 4. I think that was an opinion at the time, not that it really matters. What stands out is definitely the slower pace of parts 3 and 4. Because revisiting the books 1 and 2 finales, they're so fast paced. In particular, book 2 finale was just like so fast. And here they get the extended episode and really just take their time. And it's a nice change of pace, but it does feel kind of slow compared to previous finales in some ways. That being said, the Agni Kai is like way faster than I remember. I was like expecting this to drag out the whole finale, but it's only a few short scenes. And also the Ba Sing Se stuff with the White Lotus, I do vaguely remember this, but that's like nothing. It's like 2 seconds. So there's still parts that are fast. And then
if you had told me, if you were like the White Lotus take back Ba Sing Se, I'd have been like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it does.
Like happen. I know we go and see Iroh, but like I don't remember.
I guess you have to get to that point. Yeah. Well,
also,
they go and see
if you had been like Zhang was there, I would have been like, what? So we're watching.
Yeah, I just. Like, I did forget all the people who were involved with that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, that's Zhang. And Danny's like, who's that? Like,
it also
I was shocked.
It also doesn't like really make sense. You got like 2 powerful firebenders and some other people versus like all of the Fire Nation there.
I think potentially Boomy could have done it himself. Like, I mean, based on
Boomy gets the flashback where he takes the whole city back.
That's true. That's true.
Zhang is like the most. He does the most though for some reason, even though he's the least important. I guess beyond Dao, but he's like takes out a ton of tanks at once. Like he gets the coolest action parts. Weirdly. Anyway.
Tanya was like, that is so cool.
Nice. I'm glad Zhang is getting some appreciation even now. But heading into these latter topics, my thoughts would be even almost 20 years later, I am still grappling with the rock in the back, with Katara's role in the finale being with Zuko, and with Aang not killing Ozai. Like we'll go over them in detail, but I am still conflicted about all these aspects of the finale. I still have unsettled thoughts. So I'm excited to talk it out, but time has not eased some of these hard aspects that, for us, I always say, like, the series tonight is not the best episode of Avatar. That's like an unpopular opinion. Most, normies with Avatar would say this is the best episode of Avatar. I think some of these hesitations are still there, and still some of the most interesting things to dive into here. But as a caveat to all this, like, finale's great. Obviously, it was epic. I did still appreciate everything, and we'll talk about the energy bending, but that sequence is very beautiful.
I think I mentioned like 10 podcasts ago that I had this incredible theory for the rock in the back, and you said to save it until the finale. So yes.
Okay. I have new thoughts as well. I have a new interpretation as well, and I'm going to bring in an old interpretation from the podcast. I'm going to bring in the contact. We won't reveal, but we'll start to bring that in here. So let's talk about the rock in the back. I mean, it's like not the most important scene. It's just, I feel like this is infamously one of my most prominent opinions, is that I hate this scene. I think this is the third in the trilogy of Dylan's most hated Avatar scenes, from the Katara death threat, which I liked a lot more this time. The Katang and Bryland talk, which I don't hate as much.
Wait,
but you didn't
like the death? You didn't like the death threat?
At the time, I was like, it's so out of character for Katara. I hate that she's. Katara would never say that, and I still think it's a little bit out of character. But the scene is like really good in context now. But yeah, I did not like that at the time. But now the third scene, maybe the most hated of them all, because for context, we were. One of our favorite things to speculate on was Avatar State versus Katara. Is Aang in the finale going to choose to get the Avatar State back? Is he going to choose to give up the Katara, or is he going to choose the Avatar State? We had a whole podcast on it. We had several sequel podcasts later on. We constantly were talking about this through all these podcasts I revisited. So then we get this scene, and there's a lot of disappointment that it was just kind of brief and not what we were expecting. But I don't know, Mel. We can go around the horn first. But what did you think watching this scene this time around? Any new thoughts here? Any things you remember from the time?
Well, I do remember at the time I didn't think about it until you said it now, but the debate of I think that might have been where some of the fear was coming from too, in the terms of the being worried about shipping stuff, right? Because Avatar State, they set up this really interesting choice he would have to make, and obviously it just sort of environmentally solved it, which is never satisfying. I mean, he essentially didn't have to make the choice, which is a bummer. I did think watching that happen, and how kind of it's not graphic or anything, but it's a little violent. And I'm like, he'd be dead. He'd have snapped his spinal cord, or depending on how hard he took that, prominence of rock to the back. But it's kind of like when you watch Home Alone and everything that he does to the robbers, you're like, oh, you're dead. That guy's dead. But yeah, I mean, I think solving a character choice issue with an environmental there's this sort of, I'm going to butcher it, but there's this sort of rule of thumb saying that it's good if happenstance and chance and that sort of thing gets your characters into trouble, that's plot, but it is very bad if happenstance and chance gets them out of trouble. And I do think that's essentially what happened there.
Yeah, and we'll provide some potential context on what they're thinking as to deeper meanings here, but I mean, I feel like it came across that way to us. So and maybe to many people. I feel like there's not, I don't know, is there a consensus on what happened? So let's save Jeff to hear the theory. But Ben, what was your any Avatar State rock in the back thoughts?
I mean, if we're going to go deeper into it in a bit, but I think I see what they were trying to go for between what Avatar Yang Chen told Aang about how, the Avatar can't achieve spiritual enlightenment because his sole duty is to the world. Well, when Aang was trying to unlock the chakras, Guru Patik says you have to let go of the world. Well, he can't do that. He's the Avatar. That's, as Yang Chen said, his duty is to the world. And then in the first episode of season 3, Qatar talked about how Aang had a lot of twisted up energy in that spot on his back. So I think I see what they're trying to go for, where Aang gets an understanding, like, well, I can't let go of the world because, and to him, Qatar is his world because that's his duty. But I think the execution it didn't come across very well. Or as clear as maybe. It's a little more ambiguous than I think it should have been.
Right. I think that's a great point, bringing in that line from Yang Chen. That is good evidence to suggest that maybe that moment is not him unlocking the chakra as I thought it was at the time on that podcast. And I think for a long time thought maybe that's not what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's not supposed to be him choosing. It's like something else happening, like a third way type of situation, which we'll continue to bring in. But Jeff, okay, let's go to Delaney first. Delaney, any Avatar Stay Rock in the Back thoughts?
So again, this wasn't on my radar back then, and it's only on my radar now because of all of the discussion. And I think it just really ties into it's just kind of like a general thing with the finale, which and we'll talk more, but like for me, I don't care about the Rock as much as the Lion Turtle. But then the Lion Turtle, now we have hindsight and also Korra, and you can really see what this world that they have created and like what they were going for, and like there is this much deeper lore and understanding than what was established in Avatar. And so for me, I care a lot less about the Rock than I do the Lion Turtle. But flip side, obviously, like that is one of the biggest, and I think one of the most compelling through lines in Avatar is, to master the Avatar state, he needs to let go of Katara, which I do not think we get a satisfactory ending to. However, rule of cool, the fight is so awesome that like I accept it. I do. I think generally there's just kind of a failure. There's a failure all along the line during the finale to conclude things satisfactorily. And it's really weird because like presumably they knew this was the end. Like this is like the series finale. And they were like, all right, let's have this stuff at the end that we're not going to talk about. We're going to throw the Lion Turtle in there. We're going to do Aang's just going to go into the Avatar state and like beat Ozai up. Okay, cool. And then also at the end, for absolutely no reason, we're going to be like, where's my mother? And then we're going to resolve that 10 years later in a comic. And I'm like, okay, which maybe they had bigger plans and they were like,
which I wish they hadn't. Once I read that comic, I wish they hadn't.
Yes, I agree. Wholeheartedly. Well, no, that's the best bit is so my wife turns to me and she's like, and I was, her only question was, is his mom alive? And I said, yes. And I made this face and she's like, don't tell me anymore. And I was like, yes, you don't want to know the rest. So like,
go find a fan fiction. It'll be better than.
Yeah, basically, like there's so many fanfics I could find that would be so much better. So I think generally, my issues are they're all tied together in that there's just this like failure to execute, or maybe they were juggling too much. Like I don't know, or maybe just we were really ambitious, and we just we didn't quite stick the landing.
I think the Ursa stuff is another discussion, but I think that is intentional in a weird way from them. We can talk about that too. I don't think that should be another big talking point. I don't think it was quite 10 years later, by the way, on
to me, but to me, like it was a much bigger deal to me as when the finale aired, it was a much bigger deal to me about Zuko's mom. Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
that was
oh,
a
that was
common
such a big
reaction.
deal. Like, that was
Yeah.
extreme. That was such a big deal to me. And then I will say, I don't think really the lion turtle. I don't think I really cared about that. So, like, I think the lion turtle's like, I think I just accepted what was happening, and the lion turtle's super cool. And again, the sequence where he takes Ozai's bending is incredible. Like, it is an absolutely incredible scene. And then they also continue to make strange choices. Like, for example, though they start to mock Ozai, which I don't think if they made that episode today that would happen. And it is funny, but it's like, okay, that was the choice we made here.
Interesting. Yeah, the search 5 years later, that's more than I thought. I was like 10 years, that's way exaggerated. It's 5 years after. But yeah, that it is a good point that we barely mentioned Ursa on that podcast that I listened to, but to the common fan reaction was, I love the finale, but what about Zuko's mom? So that's what like the kind of normie reaction to it was. But we were much more focused on these other things, which I think are more fun. But we can follow up on Ursa as well. Jeff, I want to hear what the new theory is.
Okay. Well, first, I really agree with what Delaney said about, like, I just, like, upon my first watch of this thing, I think I might have been a bit off-put by, okay, rock in the back makes thing come back, but then the sequence that follows is just so freaking cool that, who cares? As far as the, like, balancing the, okay, I have to look up Katara versus have the Avatar state, I honestly think that they might have written themselves into a corner at the end of season 2. Like, they're at now they're season 3. It's like, okay, we want both these things to happen. He has to have the Avatar state. He has to get the girl. So just kind of ignore what happened and hope no one complains too much. But as far as in universe, why does it make sense for him to get his Avatar state back when he gets hit with a rock? This is, I think, I said this is an amazing theory. What I mean is it's so amazingly bad that they're gonna make it
Uh-oh.
So, all right, he is an airbender. He has an airbender tattoo down his back. At the end of book 2, he gets a back full of lightning from a firebender. So now he has way too much fire in his back. And then immediately after, he gets healed by magic water. So now he has air.
This is so good. I love this.
Fire
Jeff.
and water. He's missing.
And he gets earth at the end.
Back.
Oh my god!
Yes,
this is great. I'm on board.
You said it in the Hidden Zutara voice, so like it makes you think it's a fake theory, but
it did immediately. Also, I was triggered though because I also was like, he's gonna say something Zutara, and I'm gonna get mad. So like, I was triggered.
I actually think that's a really good thought. I don't. Now we gotta you gotta extend it beyond. There's like the element in his back. It's like somehow that penetrates his like spiritual.
I mean, it does make sense that I think it does make sense that in that like he's also we do spend a lot of time with him in the ball and he's sweating like he's burning up in there, and like we know all his energy is all twisted up in there. Like, I mean, to me, it would make sense that under extreme stress, which is also what the Avatar state does, can be triggered. It would make sense. And then for me, the reason he's able to turn it off, which shows that he's mastered it, so he doesn't kill him, is because of like all the discussions he had and the lion turtle. He's like, I am not going to do this, because even at the end, he's going to do it, and he's like, no, I'm not. So I think even then, it's still that struggle. So like it could be worse.
I'm liking the 4 elements idea. If this is what they're going for, I feel like they could actually just explained it. Like, there's a way to make that thematically satisfying in some way. Anyway, let me bounce around a few aspects of this. First, my general, like, rewatching it. I'm not as angry at it anymore, because on this rewatch I was not over speculating about this potential plot line like we were when we were younger. So it's more mediocre than like offensive, but the scene itself, I think it still doesn't work for me, and like it's probably the worst part of the finale for me. But it's not so offensive like this time around. Now let me bring in the podcast from the time. A few times I'm going to reference that podcast, and I'm going to flash back even further to a previous podcast that I was recapping on a previous episode of this, the Avatar State versus Katara discussion. We had a whole podcast on that, and the highlight was at the beginning. Jake said, "Here's my theory on what's going to happen," and this comes from me talking to my contact. I forgot all about this, but this was like a thing at the time. Is we had a whole potential contact explanation for Avatar State and Qatar, which is also referenced in our finale discussion. But at the time, he said basically, it's about thematically, Aang needs maturity to balance power and love. Katara can come back to Aang even though he gave her up. So it's about Aang's maturity, said Jake's theory in reference to talking to his contact. This is referenced in our discussion the night of the finale. I said for the Rock in the Back, I said Jake's theory on the maturity, meaning Aang can have the Avatar state again, is canon. So I said that did happen, but I also said I don't know how or why, but it was true. And I said I thought he unsealed the seventh chakra, and the maturity of Aang offset the requisites of detaching himself. That's what younger me said. So I think that we're going to talk about the contact here, but this is a very credible source in the storytelling of Avatar. I will say a very high level source. So the reference to Aang's maturity being the intention in this scene, I think, is something I forgot about, and I would take as the intention of the writers. To me, I like this. Looking back now, I was looking a little bit through this lens because I did hear that re-listening to the podcast, so I was kind of biased on it. But I like this Aang's book 3 arc being about him maturing. You know, he starts off with this newfound confidence, with just his attitude with Katara and the headband. He goes through another defeat in Day of Black Sun. He can bounce back from it. He learns firebending, and he comes across very mature in the Southern Raiders. I like this being the culmination of Aang's. It's a coming of age story, of course. It's him maturing into his own as the Avatar and finding his own path as the Avatar, and I think that's what the energy bending is about. And so how does Aang's maturity lead to it? Well, unlike at the time, I said I thought he unlocked his seventh chakra. Now I'm more along the lines of what Ben said, and I think he's finding his own path to unlocking the Avatar state. I think his chakra is still blocked at the end. This is my new read on it. But his maturity as a person and as the Avatar lets him find a way to master the Avatar state without the chakras. Do I like this? I mean, I think they should have explained it better, but I think this is.
It is funny that the chakras don't come back in Korra in terms of like Avatar state stuff. They sort of abandon them, so I think there's something to that. Maybe we just sort of move past those as a mechanism.
It's like the chakra. How did we never think about it like this? But like the chakras were never meant. He's never meant to unlock the chakra. It was like a failed path, and he had to find his own way to it. Yeah, I mean, like, why would you never really talk about the chakras again? They do reference it like 2 lines throughout book 3. But the reason to never talk about it is because the whole Avatar state versus Katara plotline was fake. Like he's never making a choice between the two. He was always like, he chose Katara in the book 2 finale, along with this reading. Like he chose Katara and that's it. And so that decision was done. We didn't understand that at the time. I don't think many people really did, because plot-wise, we're not presented with an alternative path to unlocking the Avatar state, and we're like, okay, Aang has to be in the Avatar state. But I think rewatching book 3, they're not really a lot of high-level plot threads. It's pretty episodic season. It's more about character themes. I don't think it was intended to be a season-long plot line in terms of narrative. So my biggest thing looking back is I just think that was a false choice plotline we were talking about with Avatar State versus Katara. So I like this interpretation now of like he chose Katara, and now it's about him coming into his own as the Avatar, so he can unlock the Avatar State in his own way. If I were to suggest how they should have done it, I think we didn't need the Rock. I think you could have shown him kind of just slamming against the wall and not, you didn't need to show Cosmic Aang. I think that was a big, if this is what they were going for, that was a big mistake, I think, because Cosmic Aang may be just supposed to represent the Avatar state overall, but it makes you think it's chakra related. That is, if you do think it's chakra related stuff, I'm not saying I'm right, then that is evidence, because we see all the avatars come online in reverse order, and then you see Cosmic Aang from the book two from the Guru. So I don't know. I think you should have just if you're gonna go with this like sort of like non explanation, just like have him slam against Swan. He's back in the Avatar state, and you should have showed threaded it better throughout the season. But I feel like with the like having like this trigger, it's like it feels particularly dumb. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of this read now? On Ben, do you agree that kind of supports what you were thinking with what Yang Chen said?
Possibly. I mean, and a good point brought up that the chakras are never mentioned in Korra. So, and maybe what that tells us is perhaps there's no one set path of, mastering the Avatar state.
Mm-hmm.
Because for Korra at the end of book one, Air, it was about connecting with her spiritual self. So no mention of chakras, just connecting with, that part of her. So, I still think the rock in the back, again, I come back to that twisted up energy Comet Katara made in episode 1. So maybe the idea is he, uh, some kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word.
You're right that there is a physical. They're presenting a physical trigger. You're right. There's a comment in the premiere book 3. So I don't think it's as simple as what I'm saying. Like I think in their eyes there's also a physical blocking. But I guess to overcome the physical blocking, he needed his maturity plus the trigger, the physical trigger, to get past it.
Yeah, I think that again. I think that's what they were going for. It just wasn't explained in the best way.
Do you think it's in any way similar, like the needing of this like I get from their standpoint, we need to show the audience something, right? Because he hits the wall without the rock, he goes from the Avatar state, that sort of thing. Like to them, I mean, we'd probably still be having a similar conversation, right? It was like, why this trigger it, and that sort of thing. Like I think if you wanted the emotional, you wanted to sort of point people more towards the emotional element of it, the maturity storyline, it would be, him in the ball, sort of like, very, he's sort of physically closed in. It's like a very intense moment. I think without, you don't need sort of this like physical interference, but it does remind me a little bit of book 3 of Korra, where she sort of has that arc in book 3, book 4 of Korra, where she has that arc in the beginning of the season where she's like, struggling, and it turns out, and I remember when this happened, Dylan, you being pretty unhappy with their explanation being sort of tying the emotional stuff to a physical catalyst. And I just wonder if it's sort of a similar, thing going on here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm would love to revisit that with Korra as well. That does seem to be a direction they like taking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like the physical, I don't. It's not so. I feel like if you if you have some scenes of Aang just actually talking to someone, particularly Katara, because as I said in these podcasts at the time, I'm like, I don't even think Katara's can even know whatever happened with with the chakras and the Avatar state and giving up Katara, and she does never knows in the show we watch herself. Just like have Aang talk to Katara and say like, he told me to give up all my connections and I couldn't do that. And so that's done, like make it, if you're going away from the chakras, make that kind of clear and just kind of put it into words a little bit, which is, it's weird because Zuko's plotline this season is so blunt and they just have Zuko constantly just saying exactly what's happening with him, and they're so and yet they're so cagey about a lot of what's going on with Aang. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'd call it subtle, but it's kind of blunt versus subtle direction with various plot lines here.
I on this like maturity thing, a thought that occurs to me is there is this moment when he's got the Fire Lord, or the Phoenix King, down on the ground, and he's about to deliver the final bow, and his voice is very Cosmic Aang-ish, and then he, says, no, I'm not going to do that. So could that be like turning away from the cosmic power and saying, I'm more mature than this?
Right. He says, I think that's more clear in terms of his choice whether to kill Ozai or not. And he said he is he's all the avatars speaking, and he's like, it's time you pay the price. And he gets out of the avatar state. He says no. And I agree. That's him. Like, he's matured into his own as the Avatar, and he's found his own path here. He's decided that's not the direction he's going in, aided by Magic MacGuffin Lion Turtle, and he finds another path, and he's now truly the fully realized Avatar. I mean, I do think that ties into everything we're talking about. It's kind of all one thing in terms of if you look at it as Aang's character arc for the show and for book 3. Yeah, Jeff, any other thoughts on? I mean, I'm going to resist asking if we can tie this into the 4 elements thing, but I think that would be fun too. Any other thoughts on this?
No, not really. I think, yeah, it was all right when I watched it. But, yeah.
Yeah, Delaney.
I like these thoughts. I don't know if
I thought it was going to end there, but there's more.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I like these thoughts.
No notes.
Just no notes. I mean, it just boils down to, and I think it's just a lot of the issues are there are things that could have been said, a lot more stuff that could have been fleshed out. And I do think, unfortunately, the physical was really necessary. Like, it had to be shown. And I think showing Cosmic Aang, if it's kind of a little bit of a misdirect, like unintentionally, because, then we're like chakras, but then it's not chakras, but you have to show us somehow because you didn't talk about it. So,
and there's, and there's a little underdevelopment too of the chakras stuff, even, right? Because it's like we don't fully understand what they are, so we're like, everything is chakras.
I really think so that's the problem with Avatar, I think, as a whole, is we latch onto things, which is not a bad thing, and that's what you're supposed to like. This is a completely foreign world to us. This is a different world. It has its own rules. They lay it out for us. And then they don't tell us stuff, which is fine. And then we do tell us we're like, okay, cool, here are these rules. And then they're like, JK. Also, tying into this, something I noticed maybe y'all are like, you're stupid. I can't believe you didn't realize this. So I'm watching the finale, and we get on the Lion Turtle, and then they're like, they go to June, and they're like, he doesn't exist. He's in the spirit world, but he could bend because he had entered the spirit world in his physical form, which we find out you can do in Korra. How could we have figured that out 20 years ago? We couldn't have. But like
I agree.
For me, there is a logic. They have a logic. There is a Bible. They have there is an established lore. We don't know all of it because they hate us for some reason. But like it's there, and there is a foundational logic, which I appreciate. And I do think it does help. You have to watch Avatar and Korra together. You absolutely need to. If you're listening to this right now and you haven't watched Korra, I want you to actually turn us off right now and go watch Korra, and then you can come back.
Don't worry, Delaney. I don't think anyone. I think people. Maybe they're saving it for our rewatch podcast. Okay, let me bring in. Delaney, you bring that up with the physical spirit world from Korra. By the way, I don't remember things from Korra. That's why we need to do the rewatch. But at the during our podcast that night,
what I'm talking about is specifically Book 2 Korra, which is why you don't remember.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but
because you like to
that's a black hole.
I think it is. I think that is a retcon from Korra because looking back, well, maybe because at the time on our podcast that night, I was referencing the novelization of Sozin's Comet. I guess I had it ahead of time. I hope I didn't read it. But I said they said in the novelization the lion turtle is so old it's that its scent is that of the earth itself. So Nyla can't separate its scent from the earth. So that's why she can't find Aang. So at least that was what. Now, is that coming from the writers? I don't know exactly, but that was. I don't know if they. I don't know if they thought he was actually in the Avatar state, in the spirit world, when they wrote this episode. I'm not sure about that.
I think it's just it beggars belief that even if he was in the world still, that like the fact that Nyla can't smell him means he's not in the physical world. Like you're like a continent away or whatever. I don't know how long, but you've flown a long distance, and air molecules don't travel that way. So
yeah, you would think she wouldn't be able to find him if she's in the South Pole either. But yeah, regardless. Okay, let's bring in. We've been talking about it already. So Aang's thematic debate, not wanting to kill Ozai, the lion turtle. We're already talking about it. Energy bending. And we've been talking about how all this relates to Aang's maturity. Mel, any additional aspects of this you want to bring into this discussion, or how did any of these aspects play on Rewatch?
It's funny because it's like I know these things always have to end. Like you expect in this type of thing, like huge battle, right? Like, and that's sort of what we get is this. They sort of do the Star Wars style battle is how I think about it, where you've sort of got the one-on-one duel, the air fight, the ground fight, and that sort of thing. But I do think it is interesting, and I liked this time. I think there was a period where I wasn't a huge fan of this, and that's why I bring this up. But I did like the sort of like secret third option, where it's not just like, okay, we have to kill this one guy. And that's going to solve everything. And I don't even know if taking away his bending and that sort of thing. So, he's still just one guy. And like, as we, find out in real time in our world today, like you can, kill the guy and not the ideology, with anything. Right. So, I think obviously you're not going to be able to get that complex, in the finale, but I did, I liked the idea of like, okay, we're not going to sort of hold this one man responsible for 100 years of, every travesty that happened, in that way, but taking away sort of the source of his physical power as opposed to, just sort of executing him. Like, I think it's more interesting than I think I gave it credit for, in the years between the first time watching it and now.
Yeah, I remember like being like, whoa, I had no idea that was even an option on the table that they could do that, and thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Jeff, during our Day of Black Sun podcast, we were talking to bring in the more thematic and political side of this. We recorded that like days after Iran stuff started, and Trump was like, the goal is regime change, and then our discussion was like, well, if they take out Ozai in the invasion, like if they didn't have Zuko on their side, then would they even like really accomplish their goals of stopping the Fire Nation? To Mel's point, to potentially to the finale's point. So do you think continuing that kind of discussion, do you think they're thinking along those lines with energy bending?
As in, if they didn't have energy bending, would they just have to kill them and then?
Like, it's not, it's like Aang decides it's not all about killing Ozai. That's kind of what Mel was driving at. I wonder if that's what they're thinking, and it's like, it's hard because they don't really get into any specifics here. But it de-emphasizes Ozai,
Yeah, it's also like thinking of what kind of show this show is and wants to be. I think they don't want to be in the mold of kill the big bad, but they need to come up with some other way of
solves everything
of solving it.
Yeah, and that I thinking about like even you know, again, I guess like sometimes the graphic novels and stuff are dubiously canon, but like even I don't know if who here's read which graphic novels, but like there's this like plot line after the end of Korra where it's like there's still remnants of, you know, this movement, and it's like, okay, like you took the leader away, don't really care, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So I do think, you know, for the sake of what the show is and what the finale was, yes, it makes like this is where we're putting all our energy is into having to defeat this one guy. And, you know, as an audience member, like, yeah, I can trust that, you know, like you've set that up as the bounds of the conflict, and you know, that makes sense in the world that you've set up. But I do think like it was just like an interesting thought to have while watching it back again, now that, you know, we are more learned about certain things from firsthand experience than we ever were in 2008. And just thinking about like, you know, other ways that this could go, or you know, just more complicated aspects of it. Now, that all being said, I do think the way that energy bending is brought in is like, you know, not super clean, but I can appreciate the overall theme of it, right? Where, you know, there is this third option that doesn't involve like more killing and more violence, and violence against this one person as a way to sort of enact justice and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have my own direction on this, but first we can get Ben and Delaney's thoughts. And also, by the way, Lion Turtle on my Blu-ray copy, not hard to understand. So I think they probably fixed that. Because that was a big problem at the time. Jeff, do you think they like altered the voice after?
I think they did,
the
because
fact?
I on Rewatch, like, okay, I think the only word that I had trouble distinguishing was like the something can touch the poison versus can tough the poison. I couldn't.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But everything else was like, okay, I can understand this. And I remember
But,
not being able to understand it in the first watch.
yeah, that was one of our biggest criticisms at the time. No one can understand what the lion turtle's saying. But yeah, I believe they touched that up. So I guess Avatar remastered in a slight way. Ben, any thoughts on any of these topics we've been talking about?
No, honestly, no. I think y'all. I think I have some very similar thoughts on, you know, these particular points. So.
Okay, yeah, Delaney.
So I kind of have like this. What I was thinking about when I was watching it was this is going to come out in like a really bad way, but I don't mean it that way. But it's like I think Aang is actually being pretty selfish. Like obviously, as a human being, I think all life
Isn't that what Katara like literally says to him in the beginning of the episode? Or somebody says that to him? Zuko? Somebody I think says that.
Probably Zuko. Also Yang Chen kind of says that to him. It's like it's not about you and your own beliefs.
Yeah. That was like for me, because it was like this is like a luxury. Because like and again, I am against capital punishment. I don't necessarily think we should have killed Ozai, but it's like if there wasn't this magical third option, like you needed to kill him, like we don't have the like this luxury of like, you know, that kind of thing. So like, do I personally think I could have killed Ozai? No, but like that's not the point. But so it's really interesting because he has these talks and everyone is telling him what he doesn't want to hear, and which is fair. And really the really interesting bit is Yang Chen, because it's like this isn't about you. And yes, you were raised as an air nomad, but you're not an air nomad, you're the avatar. So which is like completely different. And it's like, and what we've brought up, I've been, and Jeff, you know, you can't reach enlightenment because you're the avatar. Your duty is to the world. And really, if we want to really get into it, like, yes, we're super lucky Zuko, like, defected. Because then it's also like, all of this is like this dynasty. And it's like, was putting Zuko in charge, like, the right idea? I mean, we could have dismantled the whole government. Like, there's all these things we could have done. And then of course they kind of do get into that a little bit in the comics, because like they're like constantly assassins are trying to kill Zuko. Like it's like constant. which is funny considering it's not happening and Azula like is insane. But yeah, that really struck me this time watching was just this like and of course it's admirable. Aang's like, I'm not going, like, I don't want to kill him. I think there's another way, which he couldn't have known. He was just hoping for another way. And then and of course now what we know is like, okay, taking away Ozai's bending opens up this energy bending that we then causes us problems 70 years later. But yeah, I guess that's really what just struck me. It was like this like, I think it's a little like, I think it's a really so on the base level, simplistic, good message. Like maybe killing Ozai isn't the answer. All life is sacred. But then it's also like, well, like based on like real life events and like what are we doing? And of course, you're talking about regime change with. In this case, we have this cult of personality. We have the dynasty, like it's literally this bloodline that is ruling the Fire Nation. And I think that also it wasn't necessarily clear to me as a child was that Zuko has to fight Azula so that he can be the Fire Lord. Like this has to happen. Like all of these things have to happen at the same time.
Everything an ordeal in Area family is kind of the vibes of that.
Yes, like we have to, like Azula is now the Fire Lord. We have to defeat her, to prevent, more stuff. Because of course, if you just take Ozai out, well, now Azula's worse.
I do think you make a good point, though. No, well, I was going to say you make a good point about the selfishness of it, right? Or like if you think it's selfish, because like thinking about two things come to mind with that. One, again, we keep going back to Korra, but like you do have that as sort of like a retroactive like thing to sort of bounce ideas off of, because they sort of developed things, in there that they presented in Avatar. But like thinking about how book 3 of Korra ended, where it was like entirely, the focus of at the end of that finale was on the like sacrifice that she made, and it was very literal, and it was a very physical sacrifice, but thinking about that versus Aang's like sort of insistence that his way is the right way, even though everyone's saying this is what the world needs, versus Korra essentially like giving herself up to be murdered, spoilers, I guess, in order to protect the world and a group of people and that sort of thing. Second thing, this is slightly further afield, but has anyone or have everyone seen Project Hail Mary?
Yes.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I need to.
Okay. There's something in there.
You spoil it for me though, that's okay.
I won't go into it then, but I had a similar thought about what in that movie that I think would be like some things that happen towards the end of that movie that I think are a sort of good, like a similar philosophical like thought experiment, that I was considering watching that, and I didn't even think about applying that to Avatar in this context until you bring it up now, even though everyone at the beginning of the episode was like, you suck, Aang, you're being so selfish. But hearing you talk about it here made me think of that.
And it's honestly, like, and I think it is.
Delaney, I was going to say we've seen this like debate of do we kill the big bad in a bunch of these animated shows we've covered since then. I think this kind of theme persists a lot and has been a long-standing question for this type of show and how to handle it.
Yes, and I think it's an Avatar. I think might be the best example of like the crossroads it brings you to, because it's like it's beautiful thematically. To end the 100 Years' War, Aang chooses to not take his life. But then it's like, and I'm going to say in reality, which sounds ridiculous because it's a cartoon, but the actual like reality of like, okay, well, Zuko, like what has changed and what hasn't changed. And then like also like LOL, like how many Fire Nation soldiers died while Aang was like not killing the Fire Lord, but they were like, we're just going to destroy all the ships.
Yeah, well, apparently they fell in the ocean and.
The first time. which this really got my wife. She was cracking up, and she was like, "This is messed up." It's like, you know, the first ship, they're like, "Everyone go down to the bay. We're celebrating birthday," hysterical. And then after that, though, we're like, "Nah, we all died. Like we just
Yeah, they
just
definitely
crash all the
conveniently
airships."
they don't show the result of all the airships being hit. It is a good point, and Aang not the one to do that.
Yeah, Aang
Yeah,
did do
okay.
that, which is fine.
Sokka, no problem. Trying to take
Oh
out all
yeah.
these
Oh, totally
Fire
not.
Nations. Okay, it's different spin on this, which is funny where Delaney was going with it because I've talked about on this series how influenced I am by Aang growing up and was like a little vegetarian pacifist because of, in part because of Aang and everything. But you know, maybe different political views now that I've been weaving into this. So I'll explain in my explanation here in my thoughts here, but this is a continuation of what I've been talking about in terms of how Jet and Puppet Master and episodes like that, the show has handled these philosophical questions in those episodes. But my thought on Aang not having to kill Ozai, I think it's the bow on top of just like a very idealistic show.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was amazing. It played amazingly for me at the time, you know, and now, but now to me personally, not having to enact violence to accomplish change feels unrealistic, especially, you know, like everything in the past few years, everything we've lived through since. To me, it's unrealistic. Jet and Puppet Master, they avoided questions of is it okay to go to extreme methods against terrible people in power. You know, Jet, he was terrible. He was going to attack the townspeople. They could have made it about there. He's just going to attack the Fire Nation guards. Hama's again attacking townspeople instead of she just, you know, bloodbended her oppressors. She also just bloodbended these random people. They always, my big take on Avatar, like kind of political high levels, they always just avoid these kind of like high questions. You know, is it okay to go to extreme methods against terrible people in power? The finale finally asks that question, and it says no, at least not for Aang's character. You can't go to extreme methods against terrible people in power. Aang is a moral monk. He won't do this. And I think the show is just mostly just trying to say that killing Ozai wouldn't have been right for Aang. Not that it's not right in general. I don't think it's ultimately trying to take a big stance on that, a big moral stance, which to me feels thematically empty. The finale plotline, I think this was great for Aang's character, and again, I still do like it for Aang's character, but as a conclusion to this thing I've been saying throughout the rewatch, this is kind of the cherry on top for me of like this kind of thematically empty aspect of Avatar. It never really asks the hard questions and gets into the hard things. You know, it's a kid show, obviously, but you know that's my big reaction watching it as an adult. It's like, you know, and like for me, like would I, you know, like Delaney's like, I wouldn't be able to close. I mean, I wouldn't either personally, but like, yes, I do think Ozai in the real world equivalent of this needs to die. As terrible as that sounds.
Also,
So
like,
yes.
I'm sorry, it disappeared. You continue. Oh, the Aang also, like, this is again, it's gonna sound bad, but like all of Aang's struggle happens in the past. Like, and I'm not saying a character has to suffer for growth, but like all of the consequences for Aang are what happened, what weren't his fault, and then happened. Like what are the consequences of all of this? Like, we very much get the textbook happy ending. You know what I mean? Like, this is supposed to be like a very like Aang doesn't. There aren't like, because we talk about these different avatars, and like when the avatars talk to him, like, you know, this is what happened when I didn't do this or this, and Aang just manages to bypass all of that, get the girl, happy ending, 100-year war ends, and then we do get more consequences in the comics in Korra, but Aang's never there to take responsibility, and so because he's dead, and then and before that, like
Because he's
all
dead.
the things, he's dead, and then all these things are like, oh well, you know, obviously horrible, the genocide of the air nomads. Well, that's it for Aang, right? Like, so Aang doesn't have anyone anymore, but then we go, and then he masters all four elements and he defeats the Fire Lord. It's like, okay, well, like what did you have to grapple with, like? And this like
I do think
Well,
that's
I
my big
went on.
issue, right? Is like he does, and this goes back to like, you know, do you pick the world? Do you pick Katara? Getting the
Right.
unlocking
He
the
gets
chakra,
both.
not unlocking the chakra. He gets everything, right? He gets everything that he wants, without you know,
Like-
active sacrifice. And
like-
I think that is the thing that
Yes.
that is a little
versus
you know.
what you said about Korra. Like, to tie in, you know, Ladybug, like Marinette is with Adrian now, it's great, but then like she's grappling with this horrible thing she did and is like can't sleep and is like it's gonna blow up in her face because she lied to him and the world.
Yeah.
But then Aang is like, yeah, I didn't kill anybody, it's great.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I guess
Go ahead, Jeff.
like to be, I mean, maybe his struggle is not less a personal failing and just he's a 14-year-old kid trying to save the world.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, Aang's about as young as you can be, and like, yeah, he did go through a struggle in the past, and you know, I think it's maybe the show should have referenced it more, and has shown how it's affecting Aang more. I think these are things the movie is going to be interested in. I've not seen it yet, not seen the leak yet, but I think these are questions the movie's going to be interested in asking. Is my prediction. In terms of
That
Korra,
is kind of
right?
the annoying bit about like, so we get to Korra, and then there's some of the stuff in the comics. It's like all this super interesting stuff happened in the 70 years we haven't seen.
I think we saw the most interesting things. I don't think the movie's gonna be more interesting than like.
Well, I don't know. I mean, for me, I guess what I mean is like, for me, I guess what I mean is like, what did Aang grapple with? Like the hard work that happened after
we
this,
just don't know any of like what he's been. We just see these like flashes in Korra. You know, we don't really know anything
like,
about what
you
he's
know,
going
establishing
through
Republic City, dealing with the colonies, like the you
hopefully
know,
also
yeah.
other things that are not as boring as that. But yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the real work though, like the aftermath of the war, like that's
No,
what's
it's true.
like.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, because that's what the comics start to be about, is the colonies, and that's their foot.
As much as I want it to be about Aang and Katara's amazing love story, there is other stuff we got to deal with.
There shouldn't be, but and speaking of course, like I said, I think they're mostly saying this is like Aang's choice, right? So then when I rewatch Korra, I'm going to be interested to see like, well, what? Because I don't think Mike and Brian are of the mind that it's like what Aang's choice here is always like correct or what, you know, like and especially now I'm very interested for the next show because I suspect, you know, a Brian type might have gone on a political trajectory akin to the thing I am describing. So I am interested to see how that impacts
Right.
the next show. But Korra is a very different type of avatar, and you know, I think I don't know that the show ever posits it in this direct of a manner, but she's certainly taking different actions than Aang. So
Right.
I'm interested to see how that plays out in the next series. But yeah, any last thoughts on this subject?
Oh, as everything in the whole show, everything is Roku's fault. Yep. End of it.
I like that Aang's like, ugh, Kyoshi. Like
I said that, so before she starts talking, I was like, don't ask Kyoshi. And Tanya's like, why? And then Kyoshi starts talking and she's like, oh.
I do like that
"Don't
it's
ask
sort of like
Kyoshi."
the meme ended up being true, or she
Yes.
didn't quite say it this way, but Kyoshi
Oh.
said, bathe in their blood.
Yeah, and then Tanya did get excited. She was like, oh my god, is he going to talk to an airbender? And I was like, yep, get ready. It was great. Great time.
I really liked the Yang Chen. I like that whole scene of him talking to past avatars. I really like the Yang Chen part.
So good.
And you know, them bringing in the reaching enlightenment and giving up, you know. So I really like all that, and it's interesting in light of it. Revisiting that scene makes me I'm starting to read the Yang Chen novel. I don't know, I'm like almost halfway, not quite done. It's starting to make me appreciate a little bit more of where they're going. Like I can see the direction they're trying to go here, and like how she arrives at that, and like what she's going through, and which is like capitalism in their world. And so I'm appreciating it more now. So that was their starting point. But yeah, I did really like that. Okay, so what, Ben? Yes, go ahead.
No, I was gosh, I just lost my train of thought. But okay, I think doing this rewatch, it, you know, I think we mentioned it a while back, but I did a rewatch of Korra and came to a greater appreciation for the series than I had before, like when it first came out. And I think even more so now I have a greater appreciation for it because I think it helped to kind of, because we talked about Aang suffer. Well, he was a 12-year-old kid having to figure out how to save the world without, for lack of a better word, a playbook, right? So, and yeah, Korra got to grow up with all these people like guiding her, and she didn't have to do it in the middle of a war. So, I think he suffered in his own way. I mean, having to grapple with, all of his people dead 100 years later, he's expected
I mean,
to
you
do
could
all
say he
these
suffered the
things.
most out of anyone. It's just not like active in the show, I think. But
Right,
his
yes.
circumstances are about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, they just maybe didn't focus on it, throughout every moment of the series, but he definitely suffered as much, if not more, than anybody in that sense.
Yeah, good
Or
point to bring up.
I don't know if I could say more than anybody, but just he certainly suffered in his own way. So
on the other hand, I'm like, is it possible to suffer more than Korra did towards the end of Korra? It's like it's hard to compare. They really not a good omen for the next Avatar. The
Oh
way
my
the show,
god, no! They're like, we're gonna
the way
like
the show
what
treats them.
horrible. And for the record, I didn't want like I wasn't trying to like downplay like Aang's background. I was just using it as
sure.
like a point in the storytelling.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, oh my god, that poor child that's coming up.
because
I'm
they're
so
going
sad.
even
Like, there's
younger
no
than
what.
Aang. Like, I
Yeah, like
really
what
hope they skip time and don't make the
horrible,
11-year-old
what
suffer
right,
the
like
biggest
what
trauma.
horrible nonsense is about to occur.
Okay, let's speed up a little bit, and we can take these in tandem. We don't need to spend a lot of time, but I was mentioning Katara's role in the finale, not like action. I mean, I guess it is an actual thing that happens in the finale, but rewatching the finale, I'm still like, wow. I cannot believe Katara is not fighting alongside Aang. Like I was like 14 all over again. This was really bothering me. Like Katara's not with Aang in the finale. The wait, let me go back to the podcast at the time to bring this in. Yeah, okay. So this is I'm this is me. I guess I'm 15 by this point. I said, why is Katara not with Aang? I said Katang did not have any significance because Aang didn't have to make a choice between Katara and the Avatar state, and Aang's battle didn't involve Katara. I said Toph should have been with Zuko, not Katara. Mel said they already had the Zutara forgiving each other scene. I said Katara and Zuko represents healing between the Fire Nation and the rest of the world, but I think that they kind of hit on that too much. And Mel, you seem to agree at being annoyed at this. So I guess there's the setup from what we thought at the time. But my point is now I'm still kind of annoyed Katara's with Zuko in the finale. Like I've gone through this with other series. Interestingly, speaking of animated shows we've covered on Overly Animated since then, like rarely does the love interest get to fight alongside the protagonist. I'm thinking of Owl House, and that annoyed me. So I still get annoyed by this. But in Katara's like a main character, and so I guess like, did it have to be just Aang versus Ozai? And okay, if it does, do you have to pair Katara with Zuko? Is that what they were thinking all along? I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I have this vague memory of maybe like on the blog before the finale, writing down a big theory about here's how everyone's gonna be divvied up. I don't know if that was part of the. I don't remember if it was part of the podcast that we talked about, and I
don't think we discussed it. That'd be interesting to unearth if we can find that.
Yeah, like what was young Jeff's thoughts there?
Yeah, we should find it. Yeah, Mel, any thoughts now on Qatar here? Did this annoy you at all? Qatar's with Zuko. Do you think that's the right move that they took?
I mean, I think that it is like exactly like you say. It's always annoying when it's sort of like the two characters who are supposed to have like the deepest emotional connection or like have sort of a relationship that's running tandem to the overall story, like get separated in that way. It's kind of annoying on principle. I think logistically it makes like the sort of epilogue scene, you know, and the way that their relationship resolves, like feel kind of a little empty, because it's like, well, we didn't see you interact at all. You know, we saw you interact for 5 minutes and then spend an hour doing different things. So that's kind of annoying. But I also think, I mean, in terms of like Katara's own story, it's like, you know, I appreciate the active role she ended up taking in that scene where it ended up essentially being her versus Azula, and it was really cool. Like I think that Agni Kai is like the climactic thing in the entire finale for me, even, you know, more so than Aang versus Ozai. Like, but it is annoying to think that what they did with Katara was say that she has to go be the sidekick to Zuko's own, you know, story. Like she doesn't have her own her own arc to deal with, her own function to do besides like, oh, I'll go help this guy with his emotional issues. And again, yes, like it did ultimately end up being her and Azula more so than Zuko and Azula, in terms of like physically what happened, but emotionally that entire sequence is, you know, about Zuko and you know, his relationship with Azula, and she's there as support. And I think that's kind of a disservice to her character, considering she is perhaps the most important character in the show, I would say, and the emotional core of the show.
I think this is also the icing on the top of the cake too. Katara's an issue I've had this rewatch. Katara's like support, usually Aang support, for like over half of the episodes. She's just really like sidelines and is in Aang's emotional storyline. She gets obviously a bunch of her own focused episodes, but it just really stood out to me, the inconsistent Katara characterization, particularly after book one. But it all, in some ways, this feels right. This is a character that is incredible, that has some amazing highlights, but is treated like this throughout the show. And it's kind of fitting. You know, and you could argue like Katara and Zuko is a major thing in their forgiving and their friendship in book three, and it does work on the heels of Southern Raiders, like them being together here. It's just, you know, maybe like taking a wider view of the show, less satisfying. I haven't heard many people complain about this though, so I don't know. But another reason I feel like they, and getting into the Katenkis is, by the way, jump in as I'm trying to go faster if you have thoughts. I did rewatching this. I'm like, okay, no, we see the Katara watching Aang in the crowd in the epilogue, and there's like this like music, this like swooshing or something, this music cue, and I'm like, oh yeah, this was what I thought was like the Katara realizing that she does love and want to be with Aang. And I thought that at the time. And so, did I think that this time? I think, yes, I still kind of interpreted the scene that way, that it's like, this is when it all came together for Katara, is what they were going for. And it's like, not that she didn't love Aang before, but it's all clicked that they can be together now, and that she does. Her feelings are romantic. And I still was really annoyed by it. So I think it's the issue with the scene in Ember Island Players is, it just feels like they're punting it to this moment at the end, you know? And so it's like, okay, why can't Katara be a thing? Well, it's hard not to have them have some sort of climax, you know, in that moment, or have them, it felt like they really had the last shot of the show. Like to me, like the last few episodes, like they have Katara and Aang kissing to end. I mean, it's gorgeous, iconic, brilliant scene. And so we gotta make circumstances such that they're not getting together until the end. And I still kind of felt that way this time. Mm-hmm. Any Delaney, any Katang kiss, Katara's role, thoughts here?
I don't think it really got, like, it didn't really occur to me like the first time I watched it, or it definitely feels like Katara. So like Katara, I mean the fight, like Katara's fight is like incredible, and like she is the one, like Mel said, who ultimately defeats Azula. But this is about Zuko, and kind of the end ends up being about Aang and Zuko. And while we're watching, Tanya's like, you know, what if it was Zukang? Which is, you know, she's just funny. And I'm like, I need to show her the Zukang episode, obviously. But it is, I do think the show, as much as we're like Katara is the main character, and then we like consistently fumble her. It's really confusing. Like, I do think we fumble her a little bit in the finale. Obviously, I agree with you that that look and then the kiss. This is like its peak. It's so good. It's great. I was like squeeing the whole time, and Tanny was like, "Wow!" And I'm like, "This is what the show's about. Like, this is it."
You were
But
squeeing.
yeah, I was squeeing.
It's really 2008 again.
It is. It's great. Yeah, but like they could have. It's just one of those things. It's like there less is more, but then also we could have talked about it a little bit because we do go from like Katara being like nah to like yeah, like which to be fair is kind of Katara's whole thing the whole time. But yeah, she does get it's kind of annoying. Like there's all this stuff that needs to happen, and it does feel like I don't care that Suki was like, I'm back. Like, I'm glad you didn't die, but like, I don't really care. And then, like, I don't know.
It does feel like
that Suki check.
Yes.
It does feel like there was maybe
strays.
like there might have been like a missing scene where Katara and Aang reunite, because right the last thing Katara ever saw Aang before the big finale was he's off conflicted about how he's going to defeat Ozai without killing him. And then she could have like met him afterwards. It's like, oh, how did you do it? I hope you were able to work through your internal conflict. And he's like, yeah, I was. And personal growth. Woohoo.
Yeah, well, we said on the podcast, and I do think this is true, that Katara and Aang, there's scenes between the two epilogue components that they got together before the kiss at the end, which unexplored territory. We've not done anything with that. There's like potentially like a month or weeks in between before the Jasmine Dragon part after Zuko's coronation.
The fanfic writers have done stuff with that.
Oh, I gotta.
That's where you gotta look for that sort of thing.
Yeah, but this is where you put the comic. But I guess we don't want to do that. Ben, anything on how Katang plays out at the end?
I mean, like you said, that's what they wanted their last shot to be. And then, honestly, like to take it back a bit to like, where Katara should have been in the final battle. I mean, yeah, I was okay with her being by Zuko's side, if only because, like, I don't know how well she would have really fit into that final battle. Like, we talk about, annoyed that she didn't fight by Aang's side. Well, that environment would not have been ideal for her abilities.
Yeah, it's true.
So, for her to go with Zuko, as much as Utara annoyed me as well, at times, I think she was where she needed to be. So, this was not a situation. This was not a situation where Zuko should have gone in alone. And so if she's not going to go with Sokka, Toph, and Suki, well, what else should she do? So,
ironically enough, if Zuko had been alone, he might have been able to take her.
Right, because he only loses to Azula because of the lightning.
Yeah.
Which was a real big annoyance for me in the episode. Like, oh, we did the classic bit where the helpless character just runs out for no reason and then becomes a target.
Yeah, why is she just standing there? And then it's also the annoying trope of your empathy is your weakness. But I guess that makes sense with Azula. But to be fair to Katara's plotline, she, her brief fight scene with Azula is pretty incredible with freezing them and then like unfreezing herself. I do think it's a great sequence. And like you can understand where the writers would struggle to fit her in or fit all the pieces together. But a lot of this is like them contriving the situations in the first place. So you could have kind of like reverse engineered things differently. But yeah, Mel, any last thoughts on that or Katang?
No, I think I got my point across there.
Okay, let's go to Azula, last kind of major topic. We talked on the last podcast of this Azula insanity arc, and I'll give the same warning here. We're going to use ableist language with like insanity and crazy just because it's almost impossible to talk about this plot line, which is very routed in this culture of the 2008 era, without kind of talking about this being like Crazy Azula. Not really any way around it. So we're analyzing how the show is doing it. We're not necessarily endorsing or saying it ourselves, but I mean, it's totally valid if you want to say the show handled Azula well here. I think there's a lot of interesting things with Azula in the finale, but I think this was a big question heading into the rewatch, is like the Crazy Azula arc, is this going to play a lot less well in 2026 or whenever we started? I think so just that last podcast we're like, okay, I said this is kind of abrupt, the betrayal, and then she kind of comes in right the next episode and is very unhinged seeming. I thought it was pretty abrupt. I do think she mellows out a little bit maybe in part one, but she is clearly off kilter, if still not at kind of the same intensity. And we get everything with her banishing everyone around her, and Lo and Lee, which was very funny, and the big scene with Ursa and breaking the mirror. Mel, how about how everything with Azula here played on the rewatch?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, and I mean, I think this is still true. Like, I think Azula is like probably one of my favorite characters in the show, not because I co-sign on anything she does or says, but because I think it's so interesting. Her complexity and stuff. I do think, what we'll call, I guess, this sort of mental break arc that she has here is like very on the nose, like visually, like whatever. I get that I guess they're trying to convey something, and what they're using for it is very as you say, ableist stereotypes, not rooted in any sort of actual mental health reality. But I think, setting that aside, like what the arc is trying to go for is really interesting. The fact that like her sort of like construction of her world is so much more fragile than it seemed, and all it really took was these one or two things, in this case being May and Ty Lee choosing Zuko over her, essentially, in her mind, to set her off in a way that I do think is really interesting, even if it's not portrayed in the best or the most nuanced way. Her, doing her weird laughing and her sort of stumbling and that sort of thing is like, whatever. But I do think it's getting at interesting things and interesting parts of her character that you always kind of suspected were there, but it wasn't really obvious until like sort of like the pillars of salt sort of came crumbling down.
Yeah, Delaney, how did Azula play for you rewatching?
That's a good question.
It's tough to answer. Yeah, this one's tough for me too.
No, I guess so. Like on basic level. So when I watched it originally, it was kind of like her comeuppance. Now as an adult, I'm just sad for her. It's really tragic, especially when she's seeing her mom in the mirror, and then and of course she is trying to kill her brother. And that when you just kind of feel bad for her, it starts, I mean, it's always there, but then, her dad's like, no, I'm going to leave you here. And then he's like, oh, but it's so you can be the Fire Lord. Meanwhile, I'm like supreme king of the universe, blah, 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 blah. She fires everyone. But then it's kind of, I mean, Lo and Lee actually care for her. They're trying as much as they can. And it's just sad. I don't even think it's not great, but again, it's like, what were we gonna do? Like, were we gonna send her to therapy? Like, I don't know, like
we can do that now. Shows are starting to do that.
We can do that.
I think in the comics they're trying to do a little bit. Yeah. I remember there being like attempts at like rehabilitative
well, it's just, I mean, she's stuff. There for Ursa. Like it does yeah, it was just sad, I think, watching it now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I agree with Mel, that the content of the character arc is really it's still really interesting, and it still plays with the betrayals and how that affects seeing Ursa. I think it still plays well. I think it's like the kind of crazy Azula layer on top of it that it feels a little foreign nowadays. It weirdly, I think because Avatar is older now, it almost like works because it feels like a classic old thing, and it's like, yeah, this is how this sort of thing played out at the time, even if it would go differently now. It's almost like benefits from the distance just because it gives it some space from it. The thing that I find interesting thematically now, I started to bring this up last podcast, is just like increasing like fascist leaders and how they're in the real world and how they can grow increasingly isolated and paranoid. And Azula gets really paranoid about everyone around her like betraying her.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt like it was very Trumpian, like Azula in this finale.
Imagine Azula on Twitter.
Would be the funnest follow probably, but
it would not be boring.
She's at midnight posting AI generated images. Yep, she totally
be the one.
It's like, but it is like I feel like it's a very Trumpian arc from Azula here. But there is something that rings true about the like isolationist of both her and Ozai, of like them just kind of being on their own and going to do it on their own. It's like she's no one left around her when Zuko comes. I do think it rings true to real world political, not just the one I'm referencing, but other parts of the world. And I think that's probably what they're going for a lot. There's really interesting stuff there. I would be interested to see how they would execute something like this now. That being said, the stuff it's still like the unhingedness and everything, and yeah, like the maniacal laugh when she's chained up, like it's like still cinematic and works, but maybe that more speaks to cultural expectations we have, that even like being aware of problematic aspects of some of these things, it can still like it still feels interesting and good. But yeah, it was still tough, but it's certainly a different rewatch now than before. I don't think we talked about it too much on the podcast, honestly. I'd like to unearth some opinions at the time. Jeff or Ben, any Azula thoughts to add on here?
I agree that it was a bit heavy-handed, or rather on the nose, and by that I mean like, oh, why is she going off the rails? Because it ties back very explicitly to May and Ty Lee betrayed me, therefore everyone else will betray me, therefore I'm paranoid. It would be interesting to see if they could do something more three-dimensional today, like exploring, oh, maybe she is not used to being unable to control people through fear, and maybe Zuko offers her redemption, like there's a better way, and she turns him down, and that's her downfall or something. But yeah.
Ben?
I think I definitely want to rewatch Pity Azula now more than I did. I mean, not to ever excuse anything she did, but I think a greater appreciation for what was clearly mental health struggles for her. And I'm not mad at the show for how it's portrayed, because as you said, it's kind of a product of the times, and but I am curious how it would, if they were to revisit it. And I guess actually who knows, we may get that with a Netflix series. Like, are they going to alter this in some way, because of when it's now being released?
Yeah, this is true. The Netflix show is totally going to do this in a different and ultimately less interesting and more boring way. But like, there's no way they're doing this either. Yeah, because to criticize it,
strange in live action too, right? Like the only reason we're tolerating it even a little bit is because in animation, your suspension of disbelief is a little bit wider. Like, I just can't really imagine that working from a visual standpoint with a live action show.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And just to criticize it from the modern lens, the show is like equating her mental health issues with her like being evil or increasingly like doing bad things. I think there's like problematic associations with everything that's going on there, like portraying her uh, being mentally unwell in a like for effects for like I don't even know how to describe it, but like for effect to show her like for exaggerated effect to show her derangement again associated with her growing more and more evil or more and more like I even the isolated aspect plays into it, but yeah, it's certainly
Well,
a like yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, I think it's the idea of like, oh, not to get too deep into real stuff, but whenever we have acts of mass violence, in our country,
I was thinking this too,
yeah, it's never about the weapons or whatever, and it's mental health, which I don't want to get I don't want to get too deep because that's not the purpose of this. Like, it you can't look at just one thing ever. Could her mental health struggles have contributed to the way she was, to her actions? Maybe, but it's also the environment she was in. I mean, look how Zuko was before, you know, before he went through his change. But he also had someone there for him to support him, to show him a
it
better
is
way.
that is interesting. That's an interesting comparison because the way it's shown for him is it's like he's like physically ill in a sort of like a infection sense is how they portray kind of this for him, but for her it's like she's this like caricature of somebody in a like mental health episode.
Yeah, when Zuko is sick in book 2. And another comparison I wanted to make was to Ozai, who I think is also clearly mentally unwell in the finale, if not always. And yet the finale portrays Ozai. It does not focus on that aspect of Ozai. It kind of treats him legitimately in his evilness and threateningness. And yet Azula gets the mental health portrayal. So I think there is a lot of sexism there, and women be crazy type of thing, right? Like our culture focuses on that more with female characters in media. And of course, again, this is 20 years ago, but it's an example of that. It's like a contributing factor to that perception of our cultural media. But yeah, I think that's a great point comparing to, because like that whole family has mental health struggles. Why is this Azula's entire thing at the end of the show? And yeah, I do really like Ben's point. When there's a mass shooting, it's always like, oh, the shooter was mentally unwell. So it's defaulting to, when someone does something evil, defaulting to that aspect. I think that's kind of what they're getting into in terms of problematic tendencies with Azula. And I think certainly they would do it differently now. They will do it differently in Netflix. I don't think Mike and Brian would. Yeah, I mean, they literally with Korra, they have a mental health arc with her, and it's completely different. So I think one of the things that I do think the like Korra alone stuff is kind of an indictment on Zuko or on Azula. A lot of stuff going on there in Korra, but I need to revisit it. So anyway, okay. Other thoughts on Ursa? By the way, I guess related. We see her in Azula talking to her, but then Zuko at the end, what happened to my mother? I still don't mind leaving this a cliffhanger. Like, I feel like it's heavily implied that she's alive, and so why exactly in what state is she alive? I don't mind leaving like a little quest at the end of like after the show ends, but people definitely like did not like this at the time.
Oh, well, doing that is rude. It's rude. Why would you want a cliffhanger? That's dumb.
Should they have not brought do you just not bring it up? Like,
I think you don't bring it up if you're not going to do like again like it's another thing of like throughout the season sprinkle this in a little bit. I don't know, like add. You've got time. You're making episodes like the Ember Island Players, so I think if you're not going to lead up to it, then just let it be.
There's a lot of stuff I think that they had a lot of time. Like honestly, book 3 way more episodic and dare I say fillery than I remember. Not that we use that word now; it's a banned word. But like they laid a lot of time for more serialized plot lines, including more threads throughout the season, and often chose not to. In some ways, doesn't bother me. I appreciate a lot of aspects of book 3 more now, but in other ways, like I do think this is a valid point. Could have, if you're going to bring up Ursa at the end, you can thread that in a little bit more, even if you show her and like Zuko alone, which was a long time ago. Okay, let me run through quickly aspects of the 4 episodes we didn't get to as much. They jump in anytime you want to. They were having a beach party I didn't remember at the beginning. Zuko's attacking Aang, destroying all their sculptures that they make. Here's the discussion point from part 1, which is this whole thing of like, okay, Sozin's Comet's 3 days away. Actually, we're gonna wait because Aang's not ready. We're gonna wait until after. And Zuko's like, wait, but I never told you that actually we can't wait because Ozai is gonna burn down everything. And he's like, I didn't think it was relevant to bring up since you guys were already gonna fight him in the finale. And so this is an example of something they could have threaded in earlier in the second half of book 3, but I still thought it felt very like weird to throw that in now, like an unnatural that it wouldn't have come out before now.
Yeah, I mean, even if like, I don't know, it would have factored into, okay, we're gonna have some. There is an airship field that is happening. Like, what I mean, even if Aang had
like a little strategy, like
right,
did they not plan at all? Yeah.
Right. So did they not tell Zuko that they're like, oh, we're just gonna wait?
And
like,
also, they didn't tell Zuko, right? Like, none of this makes any sense. Yeah.
Honestly, Zuko's crash shot makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't blame him.
I mean, I blame him for the way he goes.
Not
goes about it.
Don't. He didn't share the like. Come on, guys. Like, communicate.
Yeah,
everyone
literally.
Communicate.
Like, this all could have been solved by a conversation, but no.
Which is my least favorite type of fake conflict, by the way. If it can be resolved by a conversation, it's bad writing.
Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of that in Avatar of conversations we don't see.
I think unfortunately that's a lot with like everything. Everything could have been a conversation.
It is everything. At least Aang Katara had the conversation in the prior episode, I guess. Yeah, so at least they kind of like talked about it, but it wasn't they could have talked about it prior to that. By the way, Mel, you brought up like how Katang is saying, like I loved how they showed them constantly like affectionate toward each other in the first half of book 3, and then in the second half they have the kiss, and then they like nothing for 4 episodes, very abrupt. That being said, did love their kind of debates in Southern Raiders, which I thought continued in this episode. There is a little bit more of like philosophical debates with Katara and disagreeing with Aang's approach. And I don't know this. I think that's a big change for me. I'm like fine with. I would have used more Katang fighting. Like that's more fine for me this time around. That would have been interesting content. But we get a little bit here. But we got the flashback of that war meeting. I do like that it's like at the war meeting we saw Zuko go into that whole plotline, nightmares and daydreams, and then we get to see it in its explicit contents. And I do think that really works, even if the whole kind of situation is contrived around it. Zuko teaches Aang how to redirect lightning. We get the Melon Lord iconic scene. Yes.
Very morbid, having Momo drink out of the skull.
Well, funny. So getting into the podcast, I'll come back to the podcast recap. But Mel towards the beginning of that podcast, and I think Ali like referenced this, or someone referenced this line. It's like apparently this iconic line from young Mel in this podcast said, technically Momo was eating the Fire Lord's brain by eating that melon.
I remember saying that. I don't know why we liked it so much, but I do remember saying that.
I was like, wow, I remember that almost. I remember almost nothing else from these podcasts, but that I remember. So good job on this iconic analysis. Melon Lord Toph. I'm not Toph. I'm the Melon Lord. I think a top. I don't know, 25, 50 most quoted Avatar line. It's definitely. I think it was iconic to us at the time too. We like ended on Melon Lord. I think so. Yeah. I think right away it was good. Yeah, Aang said he's about Ozai. He's still a human being. There's got to be another way. Katara says they're just trying to help. Aang storms off. We get the Zuko field trips. Toph, I'm going with Zuko. Zuko, and then she says, "What? Everyone else went on a life-changing field trip with Zuko. Now it's my turn." I
Zuko
definitely
blushed.
forget that that's not until the finale. Oh, yeah, Zuko, Zuko Toph. Were you feeling it? Wow.
Is off.
Maybe. Look, we don't know who some of the Toph's baby daddies are, right? Like, maybe.
I don't know who any of them are.
I think we were referencing this as a potential ship, but not really like a real ship. But I forget that's another iconic line: life-changing field trips with Zuko. You forget that that's not until the finale that Toph says that. This is the worst field trip ever. Then we get the Ozai Azula processional and the crowning of the Phoenix King Ozai. I forgot about one of my least favorite lines from, and potentially either the worst or the best line read of all time from Mark Hamill with Ozai. He says, "Fire Lord Ozai is no more." We didn't talk about it on this podcast, but like, why does he say it so Scottish? Like, what is going on here? What is with this line read? How did they go with this? Why does he say Ozai?
Well, one thing that's stuck out to me is that, and I love Mark Hamill, a lot, just from Star Wars and voice acting, but he definitely and he's obviously he has a very distinct voice, but I love how during the final battle with Aang, he really lent it to like the Joker voice almost at times.
Yeah, that's true.
Like just the absolute madness. Like
hold that thought on the Joker, but yeah, it's I do think despite that line, he's pretty incredible with the climax of the show. I agree. Part 2, June comes in. June, it's Prince Pouty. Where's your creepy uncle? I see you work things out with your girlfriend. Okay, throwing in the Zutano. I didn't remember we called Iroh creepy right away, so I think that's that aged well, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I liked when I think it was at the end of part 1 when they meet June. Toph is like, I don't know who this June lady is, but I like her, and they decided to animate that like Charlie Brown. That was really nice.
Yeah, no, that's a fun line too.
With the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You saved your uncle's sweaty sandal. I think that's kind of sweet. That's Toph, right? So that's more Toph Zuko. Mm-hmm. We talked about all the avatars. Okay, the old masters, Grand Paku. We didn't talk about Grand Paku. That whole plot line. Not really a plot line, but
they're like immediately like, yeah, that's great, and it's like I'm a little confused, frankly.
Here's a thought I had randomly. Pago reminds me of this. So women aren't allowed to waterbend in a martial kind of way in the Northern Water Tribe. What happens if the Avatar is a woman who's born up there?
That's a good question. Is there a because Karuk, a man, we don't think we know of a past woman from the North. This would be a good novel for them to do an actual original character.
Give me a call.
Okay. Yes. Wow, they should do it though. Honestly, Mel, I have not been thrilled with the writing of these books. They're hard for me to get through, so I endorse this. Although, yeah, they have a different writer now for the Roku, I think. They have a different one.
Yeah, I think they're doing different writers for each. Maybe not each one, but I read the Kiyoshi one, I think. That's the only one I read, though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure Allie's not happy about that, but there you
go. No,
of course not. Boomy says all old people know each other. Another iconic line, I guess. And I was like, okay, what did I miss from the White Lotus in the finale? And the answer is kind of nothing. We're part of the same secret society, a group that transcends the divisions of the four nations, the Order of the White Lotus, philosophy and beauty and truth. Okay, so that's really all they say about the White Lotus. I did forget about the big Boomy liberating Omashu single-handedly flashback. I did really like that. That was one take I had about part 2. Is part 2 is like a lore finale for all of Avatar. We like Omashu, we get Ba Sing Se and Iroh and those flashbacks. Paku in the Northern Water Tribe. Ko shows up. Past Avatars. Like there's just a lot of touching on lore elements for one last time, which I think mostly works. We get the Iroh Zuko reunion. Zuko apologizing. Iroh hugs, never angry with him. Fire Lord.
I still think that's actually funny. I think it's still funny.
That's a good line. That's a good line. You need someone with unquestionable honor. It has to be you, Prince Zuko. You restored your own honor. Only you can restore the honor of the Fire Nation. And then Iroh also says, when I was a boy, I had a vision I'd take Ba Sing Se. Only now do I see in my destiny is take it back from the Fire Nation so the Earth Kingdom can be free again.
And then he's going to go into retirement, playing Pai Sho every day.
Yes. More on Iroh to come. Then I think we probably well, there's some stuff from part 3. Zulai, one of my first days, Fire Lord marred by poor foot hygiene. Send in the next group on your way out. I think that's a good line. And then you're banished. Lee, you can stay, but I'm Lee, so who's banished? And okay, it's Toph Suki Sokka stuff. Sokka kisses Suki, then does airship slice. I mean, we talked about that. Suki falls, but it's okay on another ship. Sokka protects Toph from the rubble. Also, Sokka's holding Toph's hand in part 4. So there's your Taka.
Rewinding a bit, but I did like it, the very opening sequence from part 3 of like the slow motion clouds being pushed away in the wake of the comet, and then that music with I don't know what instrument they were doing, but the sequence when they come up against the airships and they see them taking off, and then jump up to the air intercept. I thought that was very nicely done.
Nice, yeah. And Ben, we mentioned the guards. The Sokka talks to the crew, special birthday, and then the guards are Mike and Brian, and it is funny dialogue there.
He does care. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. Yes. One other thing that jumped out at me was their use of CGI with the airships.
I wanted to mention it. Yeah. What did you think of the CGI?
I didn't know what. I mean, I thought it was interesting that the frame rate dropped a lot, and I'm not sure. Did they? You might almost think like they used CGI, but then like actually drew over it they use CGI to help them with the perspective because that's a lot of moving parts. But then you look at the actual airship like assets, and they look pretty CGI with the soldiers like Ozai drawn on top. So I wasn't sure what to make of that.
Yeah, in honor of Sam criticizing the CGI, I thought it mostly comes across of its era. I think it was maybe at its best in the finale, but yeah, it does. The frame rate definitely slows down. I agree.
I did make a comment to Tanya where I was like, there we go, 2008 CGI, and she was like, I think it looks great. So she was not phased.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good to hear.
I just want to know, sorry, just production wise, I'm curious, and not a question we can answer here, but like, why did it slow down? Because if it's CGI, you could run it whatever CGI from it you want. So why did it slow down so much? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the like software of the day or limitations on how much they could put into it. But yeah, no, or an intentional, because yeah, not all that type of CGI is slower in that era, so it could be an intentional choice to some extent. Anyway, end of part 3. I wanted to note this line from Ozai. Was like, weak, just like your people. They did not deserve to exist in this world. In my world. Prepare to join them. Prepare to die. That's the Joker dialogue. So my commentary was like, I didn't say this in the podcast, but I probably thought this was like over the top, unrealistic type of like line from Ozai at the time. But I do think this is like, in my more pessimistic view, having seen things, I do think this is how people in our world talk about group X group of people talk about like a Y group of people. Insert what you want there, like with the same sort of insane, like inherently derogatory, inhuman way. So yeah, I think in general probably more idealistic with that sort of thing, but honestly it checks out. Part 4, by Space Sword, and then Suki's there and catches them with the ship. We'll talk about Aang does all 4 elements. We're going to talk about that in the podcast. Iroh burns the Fire Nation banner. And I mean, we didn't recap beat by beat, the energy bending and everything, but we talked about it. Phoenix King of getting his butt whooped. Leave the nicknames to us, honey, says Toph.
Classic.
Don't classic. Zuko and May in the finale. I think this. So they in the epilogue. So does that mean you don't hate me anymore? I think it means I actually kind of like you, but don't ever break up with me again, says May. Which I've not read it, but I feel like they break up in the comics. So
yeah,
I think
it's so dumb. It's so
It's
dumb.
so dumb.
Which is funny because if you watch Korra and see, and forgive me, I don't remember her name, but the new Fire Lord,
Izumi.
Zuko's. Thank you. You look at her and you're like, okay, I'm 99% sure I know who your mother is. So,
yeah,
like
they don't explicitly say, but I don't think they took the last word in the comics as the canon, but
let's see if these questions are further answered with Avatar Studios. But yeah, I thought that was funny in light of recent directions. Any thoughts on Ty Lee joining the Kyoshi Warriors?
As my wife would say, happy for her.
Yeah, good for her.
Yes. Okay, and the ending credits had I forgot they had like alternate ending credits music over the finale. It's pretty good. Okay, let's get to the podcast. Okay, I'm sorry, we're going long. Let's recap. I've already brought in a lot, so hopefully this won't take long. So I mentioned on July 20th because it was recording at 2 a.m. Me with Jeff, Mel, Ben, and Sam. Let's recap this. We have a new quote lodge at the beginning from AJ with book 3 quotes, including Hotman, 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 and the full version of the Sonic Scream. So I forgot that we put that full. They in the quote lodge. The music choices and by the way, Mel, we put full music songs in the background of the opening and the closing, which I'd completely forgotten about. So our choices for this, Jake's choice, even though he's not on this, I guess he sent me a music choice. It's Not My Time by Three Doors Down was the intro song. And then over the ending we did It's the End of the World by REM. There you go. And the intro thoughts on the finale, pretty much the most epic thing ever. Am I right? Ben, yes. Sam, sure. And we're like, it's 2 a.m. So that was the thought. I already said Mel's Momo meeting the brains line. Jeff did the outline. Jeff put the word cajoles in, and I did not know what that meant. Jeff kept putting big words in the outline throughout, which was confusing me. Which is, I guess, ironic because I guess I am not an SAT tutor at this point in my life yet, and I learn all the big words. But yeah, I was many times I'm like, what does this mean? It's pretty funny. I said, I like Suki. I like that Suki. We haven't ever seen Suki before in her swimsuit. Sam, that was epic. Me, yeah, that was pretty epic. I thought that was funny.
Good thoughts.
Yeah, Mel, you said you feel bad for Azula. So there you go. Mm-hmm. Young Mel felt bad for Azula.
I'm the original empathy for Azula person.
Apparently, yeah. Jeff in the outline said hidden Junro, both passionate about tea, because Jun doesn't drop her tea while fighting.
Yes.
Yeah, so you put hidden Junro in the outline, and Mel said hidden name of the hidden and name of the ship, and therefore need to be capitalized. Guys, we're looking at the outline, so that's your official formatting syntax for hidden is hidden is capitalized, the name of the ship, and therefore. I gave part 1 an 8.5, but no one else wanted to grade it individually, so that continues. Episode 2, I referenced the Sozin Comet novelization. Sam, I also suffer from foot odor, so I feel Iroh's pain. Me, thank you for sharing that. Mel and Sam say the place where Aang talks to the avatars is the Epic Hexagon.
That sounds right.
We were so cool.
It's really funny, but for no reason, he's like, it's a hexagon. Like, thanks, Aang. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like,
well, what's funny is in the there's 2 more finale podcasts after this, which I did not listen to, but I tried to scroll through the transcripts quickly, and the only part that stood out from the next 2 was a quote from me. First, thanks guys for writing in. I probably got 10 emails saying that the Epic Hexagon was the lion's turtle shell, and I never thought of that. So I guess we didn't understand at the time that it was the lion turtle. But
Oh
that
yeah,
was
because
that
he
mechanics
couldn't,
gone.
because he can't like bend it or whatever. It's not.
Yeah.
Jeff said his DVR cut out during a line during the Boomy flashback, and we all say actually it all cut out for all of us. So apparently this was a Nick thing that the broadcast blipped at one point during the Boomy flashback. I'm annoyed. So last podcast I said that we know that we got a spoiler. We know that Ko will be in the finale. So this podcast, I am annoyed at Jake's source for saying that Ko will be in the finale when he's only there for 2 seconds. But I guess Ko was technically in the finale. I say it's boring. I'm just recapping the episodes. Usually we don't do that, but I'm just recapping the finale in this podcast. I say Iroh's storyline is still very open after the finale, and everyone starts chanting spin-off, spin-off, spin-off. I forgot. I didn't know that at like even the night of the finale, we were rooting for an Iroh spin-off show, backstory show. And that's still the most requested like thing from us for Avatar Studios. Like we mentioned that for I think in our pitch meeting podcast. So this has continued like Iroh miniseries. Like literally even the night of the finale, we wanted the Iroh show. Oh yeah, so talking about the lion turtle being hard to hear. I had the exact quote from the lion turtle from the novelization book, but apparently the closed captioning even had it wrong. But I had the quote from the book. Joe, here's the good Jeff. Jeff's theory is that Sozin's comet got closer and closer to the Earth in its orbit over time. So in the past, the comet didn't have much of an impact until recent cycles of the comet. Soon, it's going to be on track to hit the Earth and either burn up in the atmosphere, or it'll hit the Earth, or the next Avatar could intercept it.
That because I was mad watching it because I was like, this isn't how comets work. And even
I was
Tanya,
going to say,
who
comets are gas and rock. There's no fire involved with this.
Even ignoring that, it's like it wouldn't. If it got this close to the Earth, it would be on the Earth. Like it would crash. Like, and it would break up before anything. But like, I was really irritated.
It seemed very close.
And Tanya was like, it's like. She's like, you get the point. Like, it was funny. Normally, Tanya's the one like poking holes and things, but she was so locked
their
in.
planet has weak gravity. They got weak gravity.
Yeah, it's an alien planet. Yeah.
There we go.
The exit speed is lower.
Yeah, and there must be some other like planet on the other side of the solar system that gives it like a gravitational boost, so it gets the energy back that it lost from the atmosphere. Something.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. I like that theory from Jeff, though, but I don't think Korra had a deal with.
Let's do a spin-off on that planet.
Yes.
Honestly, you could go sci-fi with the Avatar. Like if they want to go different genre, go sci-fi from Avatar. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, we are going to a space race. Could they still? So if they were on another planet, could they bend the elements?
Depends on.
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they will be blowing up the world in the next show, so maybe we don't ever get the answer to
that. We don't have to do any more spin-offs if we just.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're thinking is we can't deal with all this. Okay, episode 3. Mel said the Katankus was on YouTube 2 seconds after it aired.
Of course it was.
How did this even happen? That's what we're like. Okay, so Mel said that us on the Skype call. So apparently we were on call together watching the finale, or at least some people were. Because Mel, you said on the Skype call there was screaming into their microphones when Suki fake died. That's what people were screaming.
Yeah. I don't think there's no way that's true. No one cares about Suki that much.
You'd be surprised.
I don't believe it.
I know that. So we had a Skype chat with publicly available that we invited all the masses to the night of the finale. So I know we were talking on there, but I guess there's also a call that was probably not everyone. I assume it was unless I'm wrong. I assume it was less people.
Like I remember, like when we did the Korra call, and people would pop in as they finished the episode, and then it was just like pandemonium. But
yeah, I don't remember that.
I don't know. It was probably like me and Allie and Sam and like.
Yeah, it might have been. It might have just been your crew. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Here's another fun fact from the time. So Jeff and Ben and Mel all saw The Dark Knight. I had not seen it yet. I said no spoilers with a Z.
Classic.
And I looked it up. The Dark Knight released on July 18th, 2008, one day before the Avatar finale. This was opening weekend of The Dark Knight. So this was the reason we referenced it was Jeff's outline was referencing the Joker and Azula laughing maniacally when chained. But I think that's a pretty wild trivia fact. The fact that the Avatar series finale and the Dark Knight, probably two of the top 50 most millennial iconic like media experiences that were released the same weekend in 2008.
It is wild.
I remember that.
That's incredible.
Also,
Dylan going no spoilers is like the most classic Dylan nonsense.
No spoilers. But I mean, I don't remember. Did I see? I think I probably saw it in theaters. Probably not too long after. But yeah, that was a big deal. And I feel like that's only grown as a big movie. But maybe it's cooled recently. Okay, episode 4. Oh, okay. We called Aang's. Aang summons the 4 elements at once into his ball. Wait,
I remember this.
Pwn ball.
What's it called?
The Ponage ball.
How do you all remember that? It's the Ponage ball. I didn't remember.
That was really, really buried in like my amygdala, and I've just unearthed it in this moment.
I think we invented it on this podcast, the Ponage ball.
And I knew that. Like I knew it. I don't know why.
Did you?
We were influential.
Or we may have just talked about it. Yeah.
We were influential in the fandom.
It's the Ponage ball when he has all 4 elements. Nothing's more 2008 than the Ponage ball.
No, that is
I think even more so than Epic Hexagon. I think Ponage is
yeah, I don't think Epic Hexagon stuck.
Mel, you had to go early, so Hidden Zutara has to wait until next week. Except you weren't on the next finale podcast. So Mel, I asked you, we never actually got Hidden Zutara for the Avatar finale.
All right, let me think here, because there's two. Sometimes it's harder when it's obvious, right? There's some low hanging fruit. Let's see here. Oh wait, I feel like I had one that I wrote down. I did maybe this is I thought of one and I'm like, have I said this before? I don't know. So maybe I wrote one down and then I just wasn't it never came to light, because I honestly, you say it was the Dark Knight weekend. I'm pretty sure I was at the beach that weekend because I saw it on the Boardwalk theater. But I feel like I had something to the effect of the last scene. Katara was actually waiting for Zuko to come outside.
Oh my god!
That is ringing in my head as familiar to me. So honestly,
that was the original one.
I think that might have been the original one.
So she just went with it when Aang came outside.
Yeah, she was like, "Well, I might as well."
Whoever is out here, I'm going to kiss.
Yeah, she was like, "I might as well," and then she just never corrected herself or corrected Aang.
It's so annoying.
Jeez.
And you know what? The thing that's nice about that one is you can't disprove that. That could be true.
I mean, we'd have to get inside to Katara's head to disprove it.
Yeah. So you'd let that stick.
I mean, that's fine. And then May would come up behind her and kill her.
But they broke up.
Well, they didn't break up. They didn't break up here.
Well, we're playing a lot of logic to this interpretation. Okay, that's a good one. Continuing, I didn't know what appendages meant. Apparently, we loved the. I don't know how. We loved the Katang kiss. My summary on the Katang kiss: we love the Katang kiss. I say I never even dreamt it could be the last scene of the series.
It's so
nice. I said I was happy with this as a conclusion to the series. Sozin Comet as a whole, I said 10 out of 10. I feel like it did not rank it as a 10 out of 10, but in the podcast, 10 out of 10. Mel, Ben, 10 out of 10. Jeff, as a fan, 10 out of 10, but as a critic, 9.8 out of 10 because of the rushed explanation of the Avatar state. It's a good call. Sam, 10 out of 10. I guess Mel had left by this point. So the Avatar state, no choice involved, but Aang's choice was to kill Ozai or not, instead of whether to let go of Katara. I don't remember the context of that. I loved Aang not killing Ozai. Violence is not the answer, said young Dylan. So yeah, there you go.
Said young Dylan.
I had a mini rant about them making Katara unsure until the finale and not fight with him. Yeah, so I referenced that. Jeff thinks they got together before the epilogue. So yeah, we talked about that too. It's a good call. My 2 finale complaints, the Avatar state, and you can't understand the Lion Turtle. Jeff is going to watch the finale again now at 1:30 local time for Jeff. Do you remember if you followed through on watching it one more time after the podcast?
I have no memory of this.
Okay. I said I'm very sad the show is over, so we're already getting into that. Unison Melon Lord we ended on, and I forgot that we started putting in that the end of Ember Island Players. The effects were decent. We started doing that at the end of the podcast. I put that clip in there. By the way, Mel, you missed it in book 3, but do you remember that you are the inventor of the Unison end on something?
That feels right.
It does feel right, but
it feels like something I would insist you do.
We used to end on bye, and then in I think Day of Black Sun, Toph saying sweet. You really liked that, and so you're like, we should end on sweet instead of bye.
And then we just kept going with
different words. Yep.
Nice.
That was
good for me.
The origin. Good for Mel. Yes. Yeah. But it was a lot of on these earlier book 3 podcasts. A lot of Mel and Jake, and then we started getting everyone else in. But it was fun times. Some of those earlier ones. Okay, I said ask Mel for finale Hidden Zutara. Done. Okay, from the art book. I don't know why I'm saying like this is a regular segment. I've rarely quoted the art book, but the only notable things were Joaquin directed like airship sequences. Lauren did Azula cutting her hair and other like Azula character animation. Just notable as these are notable people. And the art book has Brian's storyboards of Aang and Ozai's. He calls it souls flipping inside out, but it's like detailed color storyboards. It's pretty incredible.
That's a gnarly way to describe that.
Yeah, that's what he said. His original idea. Their souls flip inside out.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I do think so. And he had the idea. He said he had the idea, and then he just had to figure out how to visualize it. So that's where that comes from. Okay. Should we do the contact reveal? I mean, we're already going very long, so I think we should do it.
Do it since I already told Al.
Okay, Allie already knows. So, okay, I have a lot written down here. So, although I don't know if it'll take that long. Let me take a drink, and then I have some prefaces before we start here. So, okay, this is for you listening. Everyone listening, please pay attention. I do not want the Dongbu Feng Contact to be the contact's name to be posted on social media, even on our comments or on the Discord. I don't want this. I'm not telling you this to become a news item. You know what I mean? Like that's not the point of revealing it. I'm trying to tell a story on this podcast about like what the fandom was like 20 years ago. And I have been seeding this name and the story of this person throughout this entire Rewatch series. So hopefully this is going to make sense if you've been listening to all these podcasts. But the point is not for this to become incendiary or like a news item. So I would ask for you, if you're listening, don't post the name anywhere. This is just for you listening. Like, and if you want to encourage people to listen, you can just say, hey, listen to this podcast. But I want people to listen with the context. And I don't, want this to, I mean, it's nice if people listen, but the point is not to me to go on and see this online. You know what I mean? So I would appreciate if you don't post about it anywhere. Like seriously, even on our Discord, I would just encourage people to listen. Make them get the full context here. Second caveat. I would say take this with a grain of salt because this is 20-year-old information that came secondhand. So I would not say anything here that I was not confident is true. I will say that, like, I'm confident this is true, but, and by the way, we did get I believe Jake got Jake's permission to talk about this. Maybe one day we can have Jake on to get his perspective.
Oh, I gotta check my Facebook messages. I was the one contact. No, I haven't contacted since you told me to ask Jake if we were allowed to.
Okay, go check. But I believe he said yes, right?
He said yes. He totally said yes. Okay. He also said he would be willing to come on. It just the conversation died after that.
If Jake is listening, you message me and we can go through all that. But for legal reasons, this is alleged. All of this is allegedly, okay? Like so it is 20-year-old secondhand information. But again, like it's I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't think it was true. But allegedly. And then the third caveat I want to give is I'm not trying to get the contact in trouble. This person is doing fine. But I am not even saying that I'm not saying that this behavior is wrongdoing. Like this is, I don't think that necessarily this is wrong talking to us about Avatar. It's not the point, like, but more so, it's not the point. The point isn't that this is wrong. I'm just telling the story of what is happening. So let's do it. Okay, so we talked about in the beginning who knew. So Jake, to my knowledge, Jake only told me who the contact was, and Mel, you figured out via Facebook contacts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so Mel, and I don't think we confirmed it to you, but you may have taken our denial in such.
I asked you, and you were like, "I'm not." You sort of did one of those like, "I'm not going to." Confirm or deny.
I can't confirm or
yeah, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But then they accepted my friend request, and we're still friends on Facebook. So
okay, there you go. And Jeff, how did you figure out recently?
So in December of 2011, you and Jake were emailing back and forth discussing Korra leaks, and for some reason, Jake CC'd me on the thread, and there was previous discussion using the leak's name.
So you knew since then?
Yeah.
Oh, so Jeff has known all along. Oh, but okay, not at the time of Avatar, but okay, there you go.
And I replied saying, "Hey, I don't know if you meant to use his name. If he's your contact, I promise not to tell." And so, yeah,
that's funny. I don't remember. Promise not to tell. Good. I mean, look, by that point, this had fizzled. I will reference the Korra actually leak, so we'll talk about that just now. And but okay, so that's the pool of people, and I guess Allie now who know in the entire.
Well, Allie has known. Yeah, Allie has known for like the last year.
A year? Before, oh my god!
Not quite a year. I don't know. I mean,
I don't believe that Allie would be able to not say anything.
But no, I'm pretty sure I told her.
Okay.
We got brunch and
mimosas
and it came up as one does.
Yeah.
Okay, but anyway.
Happen when you brunch.
Well, point is, this is the biggest secret in Avatar history. I don't even know if Mike and Brian knew who the contact was, but more on that in a minute. So what was the Dongbu Feng Contact? I referenced that this week. Dongbu Feng Contact leaked episode titles to us, which we revealed early. Small plot details about some random stuff, but there's no major spoilers. There's nothing like the finale novelization.
For example, like Ko is in the finale.
Right. So we got crap like that, right? Like that was like a Ko is in the finale, and I was like, wow, it's going to be exciting. And but no. So that's the type of thing. Okay, so here's what happened. So I want to tell this from my point of view. So my point of view. My point of view. So I came to Dongbu Feng. I applied. I told the story. I applied to be an admin. Jake had a job listing as administrator at Dongbu Feng, and I had worked on the Avatar Wikia, and I had as an admin on another forum, not the Avatar Wikia, Wikipedia, actual Wikipedia, and I got accepted, and then I started working as Jake's right hand man, and it was pretty fun, honestly, revisiting the podcast because me and Jake are pretty chummy, and it's like, oh, I remember Jake and I were close. That was fun. I miss those times, and all of Avatar times, honestly. But we were close, and I convinced Jake eventually. I don't think it was right away that like as your number 2, I need to know who the contact is, so I can help you like with what to do with episode titles, which a lot came from me. So I mean, it's true. I do think like it benefited. It's like how we're going to release information and stuff. So. I eventually convinced him. So we're on a chat, and it's like, okay, you gotta. I don't know if this is exactly what happened, but it's fun to think about it this way. You gotta guess who the contact is, says Jake. And I'm like, okay, it must be someone like pretty low level. It must be like an intern. Like that's my first thought. Like it's an intern. It's the janitor. Classic. Okay, no. He's like, no. It's bigger than that. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's an artist, like it's like a storyboard artist, like.
I think I figured it out.
Were you going through the credits just to find like little?
I might have been going through
names.
the credits as I was like, is it this person? Like, is it this background artist? And by the way, oh yeah, I was gonna say, if you're listening, I'm about to say the name. If you've been listening to all of the episodes, you should know because I've really been seeding this in throughout the whole series. Don't comment, but with the name, but like tell me afterwards, like think right now who you think it is, and then when I say it, tell me if it's who you thought. So
Should we
make
go
your
around
guess,
and
then
see who Ben and Delaney think it
no,
is?
no, no. I'm gonna give the reveal, and then you guys
Okay,
can react
okay.
after. Yeah, it's someone I mentioned a lot on the series. That really limits it. I mean, there's not a lot of people I mention a lot. Okay, so is it like a storyboard artist? And Jake's like, no, it's someone on the writing side of things. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a writer. It's like John O'Brien, right? Like it's like John O'Brien. He's like Jake's like, no, but you're getting warmer. It's someone higher up, higher than a writer. I'm like, okay, well, it's not Mike and Brian. Probably. I mean, maybe it could be, but it's not Mike and Brian. It must be. It's got to be Aaron E. Haas then. Yes, Jake said yes. It's Aaron E. Haas. My mind was blown.
Yep.
The head writer of Avatar.
What?
What? Ben?
I
Yeah. Are
figured
you
that
shocked,
out.
Ben?
If this is true, I'm shocked someone that high up would leak stuff like that. So,
It's true.
oh
It's
gosh,
and it's always been Aaron. It's always been Aaron E.
It's
Haas the
always
whole
been
time.
Aaron E. Haas.
Well,
it was
let's explain
Aaron
a lot of things.
all along.
Let's
Exactly.
explain a lot of things here. So this is how we heard. I mean, like the head writer of Avatar is gonna and co-executive producer, by the way, third in line in production. He's gonna know episode titles, details. Like, how do we know all this stuff? Well, Aaron was talking to Jake, so obviously we can know anything. I again, nothing happened that was wrong that I know of. I believe Aaron started talking to Jake during TV.com days, even before Dongbu Feng existed. Like how do you find Jake? Well, Jake was the admin of the Avatar TV.com forum, so it's like a prominent place on the internet at the time that you would find
That's
someone
where
in
I
Avatar.
met Jake and
Yeah, you were also from TV.com, yeah.
yeah.
And then you came over to Dongbu Feng. I came over.
I
I mean,
did.
I was lurking TV.com. I think I don't know if I posted, but then mostly it was Dongbu Feng. But yeah, but so earlier in this podcast I said Jake talked to his contact about what was happening with the Avatar state. Well, he's talking to Aaron Eaz, who's like one of the main creative forces behind the show. So like this is why I'm giving credence to this. You know what I mean? I think this explains our point of view in these podcasts when we were younger. If you ever heard me and I recap myself, or if you listen to them and you heard me being like negative about Mike and Brian, particularly Brian, although it's mostly in a troll way about Zutara. I like blamed him for Zutara. It's because we had Aaron's perspective on the show. I'd also explained like I was so focused on the writing of Avatar, and I kind of like was dismissive of other aspects of production. And I think that's because we were just hearing about things through Aaron. It's not like we heard a lot, but like we're hearing about things from his perspective. But also, I was like putting myself into that point of view. You know what I mean? Like because it takes on a credibility and like it felt very impactful. And so like I'm thinking about all of Avatar from the writing perspective, from Aaron's perspective. That's kind of and like we kind of like hero worshipped him. I did at the time, and so that's kind of explains why I'm approaching things from where we did in those early podcasts. Um, he it felt big, and it felt special, and I think it influenced where we were coming from. I feel differently now about a lot of these things. So I've been trying to through this rewatch specifically see things more from like an artist point of view that also is in line with having overly animated and specifically focusing on animation. So I'm trying to credit other aspects of production now. Now like Mike and Brian, I think are incredible and drove a lot more of things I didn't give them credit for at the time. Um, and as much as Aaron had a lot of influence on things, it's still limited, being just from the writing. When in animation, a lot is developed as you get into storyboarding and later on. So I've been trying to bring a different perspective to it, but that's where we came from at the time. I certainly have complicated feelings about Aaron Ehaz now. I've been alluding to this already, and I've been saying, like, as one of my main through lines throughout this podcast, I'm like noticing in Aaron episodes, Katara's gets sidelined specifically, And that's because I am biased now, though, because I kind of see him as having like a misogynistic perspective. And for more on that, I would check out on these complicated feelings about Aaron. I did a podcast with Ali on Dragon Prince season 3, which book 3, because he kept the book thing. Because that's the show he eventually went on to make and is, I guess, still making. So if you listen to the beginning of the Dragon Prince book 3 podcast, we talk about these like workplace abuse allegations against Aaron. It's nothing. It's if you hear like allegations, you're like, whoa, it's nothing like so terrible, but like there's like bad stuff, about him that like, and we were covering Dragon Prince, and it was like a big show on Overly Animated, and it's like, he's like, according to the point of view of female employees, two female employees mistreating them. And so like I have like much more complicated feelings about him now and negative feelings. At the time, I definitely like hero worshipped him. And then, now it's like throwing this all in and then with some distance. I don't think he's some terrible person or anything, but, and I still have the weight of the feelings of going through Avatar while having Aaron's perspective secondhand from Jake at the time. But yeah, that's what I've been trying to kind of seed throughout the series here. This kind of more complicated approach with Aaron. Still was a brilliant writer, looking back on a lot of what he contributed to Avatar, of course, and Dragon Prince is fairly good as well. Here's the interesting part. Beyond episode titles, there is other interesting information I've held on to for 20 years that I want to say now that came from Aaron. So some of this has never been said before. This is caveat. My memory might be slightly off here because it's been a long time. And again, none of this is reportable information. This is not, you cannot report it. Like you can't write a news article about this for sure. It's secondhand, 20 years old. Number one, Aaron Yahas wanted a 4th season of Avatar. This is not super revelatory, but people might not have heard this. I don't know if Mike and Brian ever seriously considered it, but Aaron definitely wanted a 4th season of Avatar. I think he wanted to continue his plot lines like the Iroh history, like we mentioned, Iroh in the spirit world, Iroh's son. These things never really get continued in Korra or anything. The lack of Iroh, maybe we just referenced this Iroh backstory show. Why haven't we done it? Could be because Aaron's not on board now, which I'll get to in a minute. So
do you know if his desire was like do the 3 seasons like they were and then have a 4th season after, or was it more let's flesh this out more so we end where we end, but there's more in the middle?
Let's in response, let me read this. I will present evidence because this gets to this a little bit more. I will present evidence in not just my memory of Aaron wants a 4th season. Here's an old Reddit comment that was unearthed 3 years ago on the Reddit of The Last Airbender. I don't know when Aaron made this Reddit comment because it's a screenshot, but here's a comment from Aaron on Reddit. He said, I was head writer of Avatar. Azula and Zuko's relationship was not always well understood, even by the team internally. Azula loved Zuko more than anyone save her father. She also felt competitive with him for their parents' attention, of course, but since she had alienated herself from her mother, she focused her energy on pleasing dad. This isn't super relevant, which of course meant acting in more and more intense, possibly evil ways. By the end of the series, of course, her loss of her friends shatters that part of her identity that she could somehow even control affection and love through intimidation. As a result, she spirals. I did, however, intend to leave a kernel of humanity, and had we made a season 4, Azula would have completely bottomed, and we would have explored the possibility of a path to redemption. True story, said Aaron. So this is public info that Aaron wanted a 4th season. I'm not really revealing anything, but this isn't commonly known. But yeah, so there's one thing from season 4, Azula redemption. Interesting. That's just this is the head writer, but this is only one person. So it's interesting to think about. I always got the impression it would be more of a epilogue continuation type thing, a Steven Universe future, if you will, type show. I didn't necessarily get the impression it was extending the main series, but I'm not sure on that. Okay, number 2, thing to reveal. I believe, and this is only my impression of the events at the time. I never directly heard this from Aaron via Jake. This is my impression. I believe Aaron had a contentious relationship with Mike and Brian.
Oh, I think that's
at
obvious.
least towards the, at least towards the end of production. Well, let's.
I think it's obvious in that he was giving all information. That's so. I maybe I'll be quiet. I have really negative feelings based on all this information.
The fact that he would want to leak stuff to the fandom, yes, right. This is just psychoanalyzing, but there's some sort of fulfillment he wanted to directly interacting with the fans in some form that he felt wasn't getting from the show. But I think there's more obvious reasons why they can, but I'll get to that in a second. I think that they disagreed about a lot of things, such as continuing the show, maybe other aspects of production. I'm not sure, but I believe, not confirmed, that this is why Aaron has never been back for any Avatar things beyond Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I feel fairly confident that he never will be, based on the impression I got. So to some people, it's been a surprise that Aaron has not been in any Avatar Studios things. I would not expect him to be back, from what I understand. So caveats, but it's interesting to think about. But yeah, I think that's the bigger evidence, Delaney, is like, not on board for Korra, not on board for any Avatar studio, so there's a falling out is the other way of saying it. I don't know the details really. Okay, number 3, as I mentioned, one reason I feel that way is I can reveal Aaron was not invited back for The Legend of Korra. He did not decline, and it was my understanding. I believe Mike and Brian did not want Aaron back. Now, caveat, Mike and Brian largely made book 1 of Korra without anyone, without most people. So, but they did bring in writers such as Tim Hedrick for book 2 of Korra. They did not bring back Aaron.
I mean, can you imagine Korra if Aaron wrote it?
I will say the last 2 books of Korra are very good. I think book 2 is just the second season's the rough one. I think.
Well, I just meant
it's a very good show.
Korra. I just meant in regards to, like, what I mean is that what we've talked about with writing and Katara, and then how would that have been handled with as Korra as the main character?
Oh yeah, here's a counterpoint to what I just said. Mike and Brian always credit, the one time I hear Mike and Brian talk about Aaron is they always, even in the recent Avatar podcasts with Janet Varney, they always credit Aaron for having the idea to make Toph a girl. So there is a lot of feminist aspects of Aaron's writing contributions. Toph was originally going to be a man. Aaron's idea to make Toph a girl. Dragon Prince, fairly feminist show. I think there's nuance to this. So it's complicated, right? Like, he's a complicated guy. I don't think it's so simple. But my response to what would Korra have been like if Aaron was on board, I don't think it like Mike and Brian grow, and as part of that change are not interested in Aaron. Like, it's all kind of connected, I think. So I don't really think it's a different universe where that happens. So we heard about Korra. So first of all, the fandom heard about Legend of Korra via trademarking of the term Legend of Korra. And so after that, we're like, hey, Jake, could you ask the contact about Korra? And so we asked, and I heard back that Aaron essentially said that my impression, not confirmed, he heard like on the streets that Mike and Brian were making another Avatar show. He heard from secondhand. It's just my impression that he heard secondhand. He didn't hear directly from Mike and Brian. Kind of wild. Falling out to the extent where he didn't even hear about that they were making Korra. I could be wrong about this. I would say this is the thing I'm least confident in. But why
would he know if they weren't inviting him? Like, why would it? You know what I mean?
I mean, they could still, out of respect, you could still tell someone like, hey, you're the head writer on the show. We're gonna make a sequel series. We're just gonna write this on our own. So I think they did that with Tim, and they eventually invited him back, and Josh Hamilton. I could be wrong about this, but this is the last we heard via Jake from Aaron, which is that Aaron did tell us he said the show takes place 100 years later about the next Avatar. We were first to report that details. Now it was 70 years or 80 years, whatever. It wasn't 100 years. And the reason that was like the one thing we'd ever reported that was wrong is because he wasn't involved in production of that. So it was kind of secondhand information that we got, but we still revealed a general timeline. So yeah, not invited back for Korra. I think it's going to answer questions from people about why is Aaron not on Korra? Why is Aaron not on Avatar Studios? lastly, to wrap this up, I have an ironic tweet that's still up from Aaron Ehas on December 5th, 2024, because Dragon Prince is still going, and he talks about this. Aaron said, not too long ago, so many leaks this season. Trailer, images, track titles, episode titles. What does it mean that no one seems to be able to understand or doesn't care to honor the dates they're supposed to hold confidential info?
Okay, that's hilarious. That's really funny.
That's pretty funny. Aaron, you were leaking titles to the Avatar
To
fandom. Now,
children.
look, it's 20 years.
It's children.
20 years later, but
That's
yeah. And
the
to be
part
fair,
that always- well, Jake was older, but
Jake was a little older. But I don't know if Jake's exact age. I think he was under 18. But yes, it's a little weird. That's the weird aspect. And when I say I'm 14 on these podcasts, he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to Jake, who was a little bit older. But
yeah, I think Jake was like 19 around that time. But
okay, so
yeah, at the end. But yeah. So that is the part that always cracks me up. Is like we were a bunch of freshmen in high school that were sort of, you were leaking this stuff on the internet.
Right, like kind of indirect. Even if Jake was a little older, it like goes to me, and then I'm deciding how to leak from the head writer of the show. I'm a freshman in high school. Like literally, it is very funny. Mel, reactions, thoughts to this?
I mean, knew a lot of it. Just the air, not a lot of it, like all the stuff you just said. Obviously that's new info for everyone. I think it's intuitive, right? Like, yeah, him not coming back, the fact that he was, leaking this stuff, period. Especially as you say with this quote, this tweet where he's like, complaining about leaks, and it's like, okay, so you see this as a negative.
Also, Mike and Brian probably figured out he was leaking stuff.
I referenced I forgot about this, but when I was recapping an earlier podcast on the Western Air Temple commentary, apparently Mike and Brian said we had to make the titles more general because they're being leaked online. So I didn't know that Mike and Brian like reacted to the title leaks. But yeah, I don't know for sure that they knew it was Aaron or not. And some might ask, was that part of the falling out? I have no indication.
No, I think the falling out probably is not about was probably not about that.
Well, I'm sure falling out was probably a lot of different things.
Yeah, well,
it's probably just like working with someone for a long time. I think they just said like it's probably a creative process difference, if anything. Like I'm not trying to insinuate it's like political view differences. I'm not sure that it was.
Yeah, no, I think they probably just had different things they wanted to do in the show, different, opinions about things. Like it happens. But yeah, like none of that is like stuff you couldn't really intuit yourself, and things that I think people have theorized since, like, he didn't come back for Korra, and it seems like he would have been the main person you try to bring back. I do think it's interesting that he was never asked, period. It wasn't even that he turned them down. Just because, I would imagine, I don't know how much autonomy with this stuff Mike and Brian had, but I imagine the studio is like, hey, should we give him a call? And if it's Mike and Brian saying no, that's an interesting amount of sway that they have, or, maybe the relationship with the studio, there's something there as well. Who knows? It's all speculation. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time to reminisce about you leaking episode titles, like at the Friday night chats, or at the end of I guess you only did that for the Avatar and the Fire Lord, because I think the others were at the end of episode titles, or at the end of, you would end an individual podcast with, here's the next leaked episode title, except, and you were withholding the Avatar and the Fire Lord because you were like, if you pair this with another piece of spoiler that we know, it kind of gives away the entire episode. So you held on to that and then revealed it at the end of like a Friday night trivia, I think, in the chat.
Yeah, I think we did one or a group of titles in the podcast, but I think we revealed some of them in Flash chat. There's various methods of title reveal, but there, Avatar and the Fire Lord, yeah. So I believe that came from Aaron. Aaron did not was hesitant to release that title. just because people would jump to conclusions with such a kind of incendiary title. So I do think there was some caution on that title specifically. We did eventually end up releasing it, or maybe we waited for kind of the TV guide info. I'm not sure exactly. But yeah, that is an interesting tidbit as well. That there was some hesitation just on that one. That was from him, I believe, not even just from Jake.
Yeah.
Any other reactions or things? Any questions for me? Any follow-ups?
For me or anyone?
Anyone? Jeff, Ben?
I'm just kind of blown away that this was actually a thing, and only now learning about
I'm
it,
glad
so-
at least one person here was surprised by this. Thank you. This is, I think, that hopefully this is what everyone the fans.
If it helps you at all, my friend who you don't know, but who also watched Avatar and is a little bit younger than me, was very taken aback because I was like, listen,
you told another person. Oh my god.
Yeah, listen, it's a random person. It's what do you want?
Let me tell you, I have not told a soul until now. This is like literally.
I've told two people. Actually, I've told three people if you consider my fiance Dylan.
I've not told my wife to. I don't think she would care. But to be fair, I don't. You were not sworn to secrecy. Like I was sworn to secrecy.
Oh yeah, Mel figured it out, so she can do whatever.
I'm a rogue agent. I'm a rogue.
Yeah,
agent.
you like whatever. It's like I'm gonna go downstairs and tell Tanya, and she's not gonna care at all. Like 0.
Well, that's the thing is the group of people who would care about this sort of thing. It's very niche. Which makes it kind of fun though, right? Because that was the point. As I was explaining to my friend, I was like, yeah, we were doing early internet stuff. We were not super early internet stuff, like in the 90s, but like we were doing like early mid 2000s, like this was back when you had to build your own RSS feeds for podcasts and stuff. And also Aaron Eos was leaking episode titles for book 3 of Avatar.
It's always shocking.
It's just funny.
Well, it's always shocking.
That's the summary of the series. It was a wild ride. Like that's a good summation of it. But yes, Delaney.
Well, it's like that Thomas is like aware. The creator of Ladybug is like aware of us. Tanya's like, what?
No, yeah. Now it overly animated like half of the shows we talked about. The creator like listens to us, but like it was a different. It
was a different time.
World then.
I will say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can wrap up first, Delaney.
Well, I was just gonna say. So like one, I have never given any thought to the Contact before. Except you were like starting to talk about it, and then I was like, and then it became obvious like while you were talking, and so basically I was like, it's Aaron, and then my backup was Giancarlo Volpe.
Yeah, I mean,
those
Giancarlo
were the two
interacted with the fandom a lot too.
Like I was like,
yeah,
these are
that's
the two
fair.
answers. So I was like, I'm not shocked like at all, like based on everything you had said. And then granted, you mentioning him in podcasts, like it's a hint, but it's not because you're always talking about him anyway. So like,
right, it's true. Well, that I was trying to. The whole point is I'm trying to explain why we always talked about him at the time. Why I gave so much credit.
Yeah.
But no, I was definitely trying to see this into
all of this was well before my time.
You weren't born yet.
Yeah, I wasn't born.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, final thoughts here.
Not much that Mel didn't already share. Like it tracks that there's some discord in the ranks, I guess. When I accidentally stumbled upon this and got that email, I was a bit.
Funny. I like the subject line of the. I like the subject line of the email.
Yeah, so subject line of the email is Jake, one word, lowercase.
I wonder if I can find this.
Yeah. I remember being really nervous at the time, like, oh, am I gonna slip up and say something I shouldn't? But I made it this long.
Wow, I have
Jeff. You gave Jeff anxiety, Jake. Look what you did.
Actually, this is interesting. How was I able to knowing me? I exercised a lot of restraint.
Honestly, yeah. Good job, Mel.
Bravo.
When I was 15 years old.
I don't think I could.
Yes, thank you for not. Thank you for not sharing it further.
Yeah.
Now I'm reading this email chain. Now it's interesting.
That is so funny.
Nice that you didn't delete your emails.
No.
I say that
really.
you should. I was going to say. I say
this is
that
why
I've got,
this is why Gmail bothers me about the storage. This is exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I also
I
don't
emails like
delete
it's my
emails.
job.
I've got
Granted, I don't
50,000
have-
emails in my inbox.
Granted, I don't have fun emails. I mean, not all of us are published authors, like don't have important emails.
Not all those emails are fun. I'll tell you that much for free.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, I don't see anything of note in the thread, but I mean, there's a lot of note, but I don't think anything further. Anyway, okay, there you go. Again, if you're gonna comment, don't say the name, but tell. You can post your reactions and everything. You can talk ambiguously. I still want to.
You can put your like.
Talk,
You
talk
can put
amongst
like
yourselves.
the like gasp
amongst yourselves
emoji.
ambiguously. Gasp emoji. Okay. We're not going to go till 7, but it's 7.
I know.
So
I gotta go
I don't know if we're going to do.
my pizza dough.
Mel has pizza to make.
Yeah, you could. Well, if you need to drop Mel, you can.
No,
we can
it's fine.
Briefly.
It'll be fine.
Okay, we could extremely briefly do the book 3 conclusion. What I most want to do? Okay. Since we did this for the first 2 seasons, I'm most interested in MVP of the season. We can quickly go around the horn now. You can give me your MVP and any like concluding thoughts about book 3, your favorite episodes, how it compared at the time. Being brief, I would say the main MVP contenders: Aang, Zuko, who I appreciated a lot more this season. Sokka, this is Sokka. If any season Sokka, the MVP would be this one. Katara, even though is in the background in some episodes, does have a lot of prominent episodes. Also, there's Azula, Toph, not as prominent as book 2. Iroh, not as prominent as book 2. Mel, where are you going with MVP?
I think Zuko.
Yeah, for me,
I can elaborate on that if you want, but
well, I just the brief version. I remember loving Zuko's book 2 arc, but book 3, I'm like, oh well, he's in the Fire Nation, and then he decides to join the gang. But I feel like there's a lot of great build up and in the first half of the season, and it's like quiet but good, and then obviously he dominates the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's my feeling.
Okay, Jeff.
MVP would be Iron Toph.
Ooh, right.
Toph. I mean, it is pretty great. She's pretty great in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll accept that as the final answer.
Because without Iron Toph, you'd still have the airships burning everything up.
Yeah, that's
hard
true.
to argue with that. My MVP is going to be Zuko. I think to have the culmination of his story arc, about him struggling, him like kind of falling down on that path of, discovering who he is and who he's meant to be, but to see him like fully realize that, I think Iroh is still my favorite character in all of Avatar, but Zuko has become a close second. Really appreciating his journey.
Iroh was our ultimate book 2 MVP, as voted by you and Jeff, which I think was a good pick. Delaney, who's your MVP?
Aang.
Aang. Oh, I could tie it then. Ooh, I like it.
That's Aang.
I mean, Aang could be MVP of any season. I'll go Zuko just because I was so impressed with him this season compared to before. I'll go over the top.
I
for
would
Zuko
say
here,
all seasons. I think Aang's the most like it's 3 like versus like where he could be in of all the seasons. I still think it's 3.
I like we were saying with the maturity stuff and he coming into his own with it, I think that's all really well done this season. So I do think Aang is incredible. It's like Zuko 1, Aang 2, close second with a big gap. But Katara also has good stuff this season and Sokka's good. Okay, last question, last words here before I wrap it up. Book 3. We originally, some of us said it was the worst season of Avatar. A hot take. Having revisited, has this changed? Would we rank book 3 any higher? Jeff, how about you first? Has book 3 went up in your mind?
I think it's probably still a little bit below 2 overall. But no, I don't know. A very, very weakly held opinion, I'll say.
2, 3, 1 would be your opinion?
Yes.
But you have to think more about it. Okay. Mel.
I would go 2, 1, 3.
So that was our original take, right? So you're still on that.
Yeah, I still feel that way.
Delaney, you were 3 first originally.
Yes, 3 is still my favorite. 1 and 2 are probably tied. 1 has probably gone up in my opinion. I don't know if it's because y'all just love 2 so much. I'm just like, it's just like, it's not bad. I like it. I don't know. It's 3
It's
is
the top season.
I know, but like for me, it's season 3. Season 3 is just peak to me.
I understand that perspective more, having seen 3, which I'll get to in a minute. Ben.
What did I have originally?
I don't know. We don't know.
Oh,
I didn't say that in the podcast.
I think I would say 2, 3, 1. But for me, it's not a huge gap. Like, if season 2's A+, I would give A's to like seasons 3 and 1. So I mean, it's not like some wide gap between them all. But I would say 2, 3, 1.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. So I did this. So I had the stupid episode, like you would give the top tier 3 points, the next tier 2 points in the episode rankings, and I've been re-ranking the episode. So originally, and I had a different point system, but originally book 2, 50 points, book 1, 43 points, book 3, 40 points. So it was close, but it was a 2, 2, 1, 3. So I re-ranked book 2, 24 points, book 1, 22 points, book 3, 21 points. There's a 1 point difference between 1 and 3. It's still in the stupid system. It's still 2, 1, 3, and that's even with giving negative points to 2 episodes in book 1, which I didn't give any negative points to any other episodes. So book 3 definitely has gone up in my estimation. There's certain episodes I appreciate a ton more, such as Southern Raiders and Western Air Temple. I think it's tied with book 1. I still appreciate book 2 slightly more, but overall it's a lot closer than I originally thought. I think all 3 seasons very consistent and very good. There you go. More on that to come. Maybe I'll do some videos or solo things elaborating on some of these thoughts with my specific takes. That's as originally planning. I've been writing down some high-level conclusions. That's it for the From the Spirit World Avatar Rewatch series. Comment all of your reactions here. Comment if you want us to do Korra. We will see, but let us know. That'll help us. Help us if there's demands there. And thank you very much for listening. Thanks to all the co-hosts, everyone who's on here. In addition, Allie and Britt. It was really fun looking back on Avatar and going through here. Very glad we did it leading up to the movie. I think that's going to be really fun. And it's an exciting time for Avatar stuff, even with the leaks. I mean, maybe even because of a very exciting time. If you enjoyed this, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Phonition, and thanks always to our patron executive producer, Steve Michael, and Phonition. I think the patrons are going to hear about the Contact first. I think I'm going to release it a week early because I'm backlogged 1 podcast, so that's going to be fun. And movie podcasts to come. So there you go. We did it. The rewatch is done. Yay! Woo! What are we ending on?
Bravo.
Oh.
What's the big end on here?
I mean, there's always
Melon Lord again, or is it something else? That's very high-pitched Melon Lord. Okay, thank you for listening, guys.
Sorry.
We won't see you next time. We'll see you for Avatar Studios 1, 2, 3, and Melon Lord.
Melon Lord.